And welcome to Foxborough's Conservation Commission meeting on March 18th, 2024 at the Gala Meeting Room, Town Hall. This meeting is broadcast live and recorded by Foxborough Cable Access. That means that if anybody wants to speak, they will have to come up and use the microphones. So I will officially open the meeting, again, 7 o'clock. We have opportunity for public comments. If none.
Bob, I have a couple items with Neponset, if you want to discuss now or later.
Let's do them later, because, okay. You want to do the minutes, David?
We have the minutes for March 4th, 2024, in which we opened up a hearing for River Ridge Notice of Intent, DEP 157-635. And on page 2 of those minutes, the 5th paragraph down, starts with Neil Kaiser of 11 Ridge Road, asked if the commission has seen the property. But further down in that paragraph, it's a little confusing. And that Mr. Buckley is here, he can, I don't think that's what he said.
Okay.
The last sentence of that paragraph, plans are not finalized on the septic system locations, but any septic system that will be within a 100-foot buffer will require separate filing before the commission. I don't think that's correct because you have a 150-foot setback
I think
line.
if I said that, I should have said any work within the 100-foot buffer has to require filing.
So eliminate, plans are not finalized. And it says on septic system locations, but any septic system that will be within 100 feet.
But
Must-
just make it any work within
Any work?
100.
Okay. Other than that, did we also discuss the kayak stands at Edwards Boat Ramp, but suggested it might be better off at Kersey Point, and minor modification for the Revolutionary Training Facility site,
Not revolutionary, just plain revolution.
training facility concerning the need to increase stormwater retention capacity controls. I mean, with that modification, I would recommend approving them.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. Being 7:05 PM, we have a notice. Tanya?
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetland Protection Act, and Foxborough's Wetland Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267, the Conservation Commission will open a public hearing on Monday, March 18th, 2024, at 7:05 PM in the Gala Meeting Room, Foxborough Town Hall, 40 South Street, or via Zoom on a notice of intent filed by Fred Bottomley, Pine Air LLC, for the construction of approximately 1,025 feet of roadway with associated drainage, water and gas and electric at 204 East Street, Assessors Map 112, Parcel 6 to 8. Portions of the proposed work lie within 100 feet of the resource area. The application is available for public inspection in the Conservation Office at Town Hall. This notice can also be found on the Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association website.
Thank you. Mr. Buckley.
Mr. Chairman, good evening. I apologize in advance for my voice. My name is Bill Buckley from Bay Colony Group, and I'm here representing the applicants Pioneer LLC. With me also this evening is Frank Spillane, who is the attorney for the project, and Lauren Gluck from Pear Corporation, who is a wetland scientist for the project. So,
Before you get too far into it, Mr. Buckley, looking at the plans, I know you were not the engineer the last time this came before the planning board, and I know you haven't been to the planning board as yet. But I recall being in the high school a number of years ago, and Mr. Weinfeld asked the applicant at that time, where is the access from Mr. Hunt? And he was told in no, I thought, very broad terms that Mr. Hunt would have an access. I'm surprised that Mr. Bottomley did not, or maybe he did relate that to you, but I do not see the access from Mr. Hunt in these plans.
It's there, Mr. Chairman.
See it right here.
Is, okay,
Page 3.
So I know it's outside of your,
purview.
but that's
yes,
okay.
it
But
is.
I'll definitely touch on it if you want me to.
Okay, definitely,
Okay,
please.
thank you very much. So again, so we're representing Pioneer LLC for this project, and so this piece of property, I'm putting this up on the screen so you can see it. It is a 17.25 acre parcel of land opposite Brookside Drive, which is down here over on the left side. And the property, it's about 300 feet along East Street in this distance. And contains 3 parcels as shown at the assessor's maps, map 112, parcels 6, 7, and 8. It currently houses a single-family home in this general location. It's hard to see, it's all shaded out. But if you looked on your existing conditions plan or your topographic plan, which would be sheet 3.1 and 3.2, you'd see where it's located. So as I stated, it currently contains a single-family home. It has accessory structures. There's a pool there, a pool house, a garage as well. And it lies in the valley of the Canoe River. So this is the Canoe River, which comes in from the north portion of the site and exits down the south portion of the site, goes under East Street, and then heads off towards Beaumont Pond. And from that point, it goes up toward the east, and of course, up toward the west, toward East Street. The property contains bordering vegetated wetlands, contains riverfront area, contains bordering land subject to flooding, contains land under the water, and contains bank. A superseding order of resource area delineation was issued, and the Supreme Court appeal, or Superior Court appeal, was dropped in 2021. And so the resource areas you see on this plan are still in effect, excuse me, as of today. And those superseding orders, from me reading them, I wasn't part of the discussion, but from reading the orders, basically had to do with the location of bank, where the bank was, and where the bordering land subject to flooding elevation was. And the DEP confirmed that the bank was as shown on the plans that were filed with the commission, and that the bordering land subject to flooding was as shown on the FEMA flood insurance maps. And that's what we show on this drawing here. So the proposed project is a single-family residential subdivision that's being permitted under the Foxborough zoning bylaw, the open space residential development project, which you've seen many times. The total length of road is about 1,025 feet from East Street to the end of the cul-de-sac. Not all of that falls under the commission's purview. Approximately, I think it's about 200 feet or so of it. 450 feet of it falls under the commission's purview, which is, I know it's hard to see here,
Yeah,
but if you look at your drawings on sheets 3.1 and 3.2, specifically 3.1, and probably the best sheet for you to go to right now is sheet 5.5, because that blows up the area that we're going to be talking about today. And actually, I'm going to get out of this. And go into that.
I already have it up if you want me to share it.
Oh,
But
yeah, that'd be great. Let me share it because I want to be able to point.
Okay.
So, oh, I see. Sorry, I'm clumsy tonight on this. So this is this is sheet 5.5, which you have on your plan set, and we just blow up. So I think it's easier to see here. So the first 450 feet of roadway is between East Street and this red line, and this red line is the riverfront area. I'm sorry, the blue line here is the riverfront area. So the 450 feet of roadway, two lots, lots 2 and 4, a portion of that falls within the riverfront area, and it's the back portion of it, which is kind of what I'm outlining here, and then the stormwater basin falls within it. We're only here to talk about the roadway tonight. We're not filing for the lots this evening. We're only here for the road. The lots are shown just because I guarantee if I didn't show them, people would ask, well, where could the houses possibly go? So this is kind of where the houses could possibly go. But as we know, when Joe homeowner comes in and decides what he wants, we'll put him in. But I will talk briefly about him because I think it's going to be pertinent to what the commission discusses and hopefully votes on at some point. So what we've done here is, I know this has gone through multiple iterations, but what we've done is we've created a subdivision roadway of what the minimum practical width that we think will be approved by the planning board. So typically a subdivision roadway lies within a 50-foot wide layout, and it's actually 50-foot wide. It's not 50 feet of pavement or sidewalk, but it's pavement, curbing, sidewalk, and then some shoulders to go with it. In this particular case, what we've done, and I'm going to zoom up on it a little bit here. And what we've done is we've taken this roadway, so with the 24 feet is kind of non-negotiable for the planning board based on the number of lots in this particular project. But we've eliminated the grass strips, and there'll be a sidewalk on one side, which is the left side. There's no grass strip between the roadway and the sidewalk, which is normally a 4 or 5 foot grass strip there. We're proposing vertical granite curb in that area there to create a bumper. And then that sidewalk will be bumping right up against a wall. So that's the light brown on both sides. We'll be putting walls on both sides of the road in the areas where it's going to be doing a crossing of the isolated vegetated wetland, which is down in this area here. And then anywhere where we're in the riverfront area where we're trying to minimize grading. So that's what the walls are, and what these are is they're block walls, and I'm not sure which sheet I put those on. They're on one of the detail sheets. Maybe it's 5.4. Sorry, it's 5.3. So that gives you an idea, it kind of shows you the profile of the wall. There'll be a guardrail on top of it, or a fence, depending on which side it's on. And what we're doing here is we're minimizing the amount of alteration that's taking place in the riverfront area. And so we believe that what this does is, this falls under a limited project, and in my memo to the commission, I discussed that in length, where a limited project basically is a criteria which says normally you don't want to work in a riverfront area or cross a wetland or anything like that. But if you have no alternative, then what you can do is prove that you have no alternative, and then also there's some criteria into minimizing the impacts that you'll be having on it. So I'm not going to go through my memo. You can read that. But we believe it meets the criteria listed and is the least intrusive for the project. We maintain a 100-foot wide strip of riverfront area. That's one of the criteria. You have to maintain a 100-foot wide undisturbed area of riverfront. And we've done that except in areas where we have to do compensatory storage and replication. And we are slightly in that area, which again is allowed because that is one of the, not alternatives, but one of the things they're allowed to do in a riverfront area. It is stormwater as well as restoration or compensatory storage. And Lauren, I'm going to not get into that at this moment because Lauren is going to talk in more detail about that. So what I want to do is I want to go into the stormwater site. As you can see, I mean, this is the low portion of the site. So typically you want to put the basins down in those areas. So we put the basin,
Just
yes.
to clarify,
Yep,
the information about the wetlands and the flagging were not done by PA. They're based on the original consultant that went out there.
yes,
So the only additional site evaluation review was for the wildlife analysis.
And for evaluating restoration opportunities, which I can get into.
Okay, no, I just want to make sure that
Yeah, we
it's
didn't
in
do the
minutes that
delineations.
We're still using the old consultant information.
yes.
Yep.
That was approved under the superseding order in the court case. So the stormwater basin, as you can see, I have it up here again, 5.5 is the best sheet to look at. So this stormwater basin is placed as low as we possibly can on the site. We're trying to capture as much runoff from the project as we can from the site. But we've pretty much done it, except for the first 180 feet of the roadway. It's just too much elevation. We can't get the water to get into the basin. But what this basin is this is a dry basin. Excuse me, it's a dry basin. It's an infiltration basin, and it's designed to capture and infiltrate all runoff up until the largest storm event, which is what everybody calls the 100-year event. A portion of it does lie within the riverfront area.
Good portion of it.
One of the things we've done here is, so the regular drain system is a regular catch basin and manhole system. So the water just hits the catch basins, goes in, goes to the manhole, comes down. One of the things we've added on here, though, is before it goes into the basin, we're going to be putting a storm scepter, which is a water quality inlet, which lets you clean up to about at least 50%, and actually it's much higher than that. We only take the 50% credit. So what that does is it makes sure that the water going into that basin is as clean as we can possibly get it, which will do two things. It extends the life of the basin, and it also, the water being infiltrated back into the ground is cleaning. We're getting over 90% total suspended solids removal because of this treatment train, and we're getting over 60% phosphorus removal, which both meet the stormwater standards. The stormwater system is currently being reviewed by Weston and Sampson as the town's consultant. I talked to them today. They didn't have it ready, but they expect to have it ready in the next week or two. The erosion control system is what you would normally see, and that would be on sheet 6.1 of the plan set. I'm going to go to that right now. So I have sheet 6.1 up right now. And I'm going to zoom in, but there's a lot more detail that goes into it. So this is the area is where, again, we're only talking about the roadway. So I have actually taken the houses off here because we're going to be using areas that currently where the houses could possibly be for it. So it's very similar to the type of design you've seen many times. If you look in the upper left corner, we have a 12-inch diameter silt sock filled with mulch. We have an orange construction fence, which is that's not going to stop any runoff or anything, but it tells the contractor, don't go beyond that. This is something we've done in the past. We have a construction phasing plan here, which is, just laid out in a general manner. We don't have start and finish dates. Once a contractor is chosen, we will finalize this. It would be part of the stormwater pollution plan. At the entrance to the site, we'll have a stabilized construction entrance, which again is the upper left-hand corner. And that is down in this area here. So it would be just coming in off the road, and what that's for is to knock off any mud or silt coming in and out or coming off trucks. And then, of course, the contractor also has to sweep the road every day when there's an issue. So I know it's hard to see, but you can see the red lines. What we've done is we've put that all around the proposed area of construction in this lower area. So this upper silt sock will protect the basin from getting silted up during construction, because then it will not work, and they'll have to clean it out again. We have some over here on the southeast side, so that this doesn't go off toward our neighbors. Again, along here, along where the proposed wall will be, and then down here along the edge of the wetlands, which isn't green. I know it's hard to see there. So you can see at its closest point, it's right there on the edge down here. And up here, we're just trying to work around the area where we've done compensatory storage, which is what's in here. Wetland replication is in that area as well. And then Lauren, again, is going to talk about most of that. And finally, the other thing I wanted to discuss before I stop is, as I mentioned briefly, this is an open space residential development project. So what I have here is a 2011 town open space plan. And what I've done is I've put our design in here. I'm going to zoom in on it a little bit more. So this is the parcel right here. And you can see how the heavy red is the 7.9 acres of open space that's going to be conveyed to the town. So it would be along the north side, along the west side, which is the river side. I know that there's no river shown on this, but it's coming in over here. So it's that portion of the site that touches against the currently town-owned open space and is closest, and then the portions closest to the river. This heavy green is town-owned or conservation land, actually, and this lighter green is owned by Norfolk County. I didn't mention it at the beginning, but this site does lie within the Canoe River ACEC. So I know that usually the commission likes to see that if somebody is donating land or giving it as part of it, that it fits into the current open space plan. And you can see that this does. I think the current open space is a little over 400 acres, maybe between 400 and 450 acres. This will add almost 8 acres to the site. So I think I'll stop right there. If there's any questions for me, I can take them, or Mr. Chairman, or we can turn over to Lauren and do it all at once.
Just have a couple of questions. In your notice of intent on page 203, you didn't check off the fact that you're going to have easements shown on the site plan. And you do have easements here within the 50 feet of the property line.
Page 2 of 3.
That's information to be included in the site plans.
Okay, so I'm sorry, what's the question?
You didn't check off easements, that you did include them on the site plans, and you did.
I'm sorry, I don't see what we're talking about.
All plans, you would go right down Test stone walls, easements on the checklist of what's submitted.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong form.
And also, you mentioned that there's isolated land subject to flooding.
There is no isolated land subject to flooding. It's an isolated vegetated wetland.
Isolated vegetated wetlands
It's only a local wetland. It's not, doesn't
on
flood.
the right-hand side of that cop path, right?
Yes. You're right, I didn't check that, I don't know why. But there are easements. There's an easement which, it's shown on plans for a driveway access. And then we have easements, of course, ourselves for drainage and temporary construction easements.
One question is on the sheet. Just wondering what it is. Does it go onto conservation land or not? You show on the site plan, the property plan, of 2.2.
Yes.
On the lower right-hand side,
Yes.
you have some dotted lines. It looks like a road or something that's going in. Is that going to our property, access for someplace else, or?
No, go to sheet 2.1. That's a water easement over to the Hunt property. It says 30-foot water easement. See it? So it's between lots 5 and 7. It's a 30-foot water easement that,
Okay,
We're
I'm
gonna put
talking
a-
about the corner of the open space of land.
where it says iron rod found.
Yes. Iron rod found.
Yeah.
But I don't know, is that an easement or is that on our land?
It's not on our land, so I don't know what it is.
You know what it is?
Oh, you know what, while we're on these sheets, let me chat. I know I told Mr. Bodie to speak to this. So, if you look on sheets 2.1 and 2.2, and if you look around on the areas, let me, you could see anywhere where there is the open space, so down in the lower left side is parcel B, which actually wraps all the way around. I've put concrete bounds to be set at the corners, and I've put marker posts there. So those, if you look on sheet 5.4, sheet 5.4 shows those marker posts, and they should look familiar. It's the lower right corner, and it's a 6x6 post sticking 4 feet up that has a tag on it, which is what the same type of thing the commission asked for over on Lawson Farm. So if you look on sheet 2.1 and 2.2, you can see anywhere, if there's no bound there or no monument there, we're proposing a marker post to be set. And then if you go to sheet 3.1, so go to 3.1, and I'm going to put it up on the board here, and let me zoom in on it. Let's see if I can do this without screwing it up. There we go. So this is sheet 3.1. And if you look right here, this is actually 3.2. Well, I'll talk to 3.2 as well. So this here, this is a driveway. This piece of property here is part of the roadway, which gives Mr. Hunt about 70-something feet, I'll have to go look at the next sheet, of frontage on this roadway. So, and this driveway is going to be built to connect to the gravel driveway that's there. You can see the gravel driveway that comes up now. So this new bituminous driveway will be connected to where the gravel driveway is now. And we're going to be bringing in an underground electric and water service to be brought to the property line that Mr. Hahn can tie into if he so chooses. So, Mr. Bottomley made a point of making sure that I included that in this design. So let's, so I guess that, now I'm finished. Unless somebody has any questions on that.
I have a couple of questions, Bill. The open space that you're showing, is there any access from this property to get into there, or does all of it have to be come in from the back end?
I mean, you can get, I mean, you,
I don't see
I
it.
would say no practical access. I mean, there's definitely frontage, but you're gonna have to go through wetlands to get there.
Have to
So,
cross the river to get there.
yeah, so it would have to be from the back.
Okay.
So why couldn't we be provided access between these lots, a 10-foot fee type land access, not a right-of-way? That would, and that we could actually have maybe even a sign there, people can park on the public cul-de-sac, so they could access this portion of the conservation area.
Okay, I guess the question, is this going to be a public road or a private road?
Our intent is for it to be a public road.
Okay, all right. Then would it be possible to get an access point between lots 9 and, I think it's 11,
11, yeah.
9/11.
9 and 11?
I will ask.
Okay. And I just have another quick question for you. On page 5 of the narrative, we expect about 2,500 cubic yards of gravel material to be exported to the site. Are you taking it out? Are you,
Good point, imported to the site.
so you're going to bring in gravel?
That'll be for the road, because the road is gonna be, I know everybody here is very familiar with the site, it goes down and
Yeah.
up. So that will be between the walls, fill for the roadway,
Okay. So it's going
imported,
to
you're
be
right.
imported, okay.
Now, the biggest change in this roadway project in the areas of our concern, it's not a bridge,
This is not a bridge.
and we're not bridging over the Canoe River and its bankings.
We're not touching the Canoe River, we're not touching the bank, we're not touching bordering vegetated wetland. We're only touching riverfront area and isolated vegetated wetland, which is only a local resource area. That's it, right?
The BLSF.
And bordering land subject to flooding, so we're in the floodplain as well.
But I did notice that you're putting a culvert underneath the roadway to provide water to the isolated wetlands.
Yes, that's the only reason for that culvert. It's not passing water, but I think if we didn't do that, it would dry up.
Now, the average FEMA flood is 174, but like we all have the evidence, it's even higher than that under some real terrific rains or snow melts. So that means that that culvert is going to provide quite a bit of stream flow to the other side of the street and possibly across the road again.
That culvert, so currently as we sit here today, there's nothing there. There's a little dirt path that's, up a little bit. And so that's what separates it. So when you get a storm like that, or you get any type of high water, the water is just going back and forth over that area. This is not adding anything to it. It's just providing an equalization between the two areas. If I didn't do it, I think that what would happen would be that that wetland to the right would dry up, because it's not going to get the amount of runoff that it currently is getting when that water comes up during big events. So I don't think there's going to be any, I mean, yeah, there's definitely going to be flow through there, but it's not like a stream. It's just going to be, it's an equalization pipe. It's level. That's why it's level.
Bob,
Yep.
isn't there a restoration area that DEP required?
Yep,
Somewhere
that's-
located here?
Yep, it's going up in this area in here, if I'm not mistaken.
You aware of that?
No. What is it?
Because I don't know if it can be touched or not, because it was a requirement. I wasn't around when this happened.
For the former project?
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a restoration area there that, near where the footbridge is, behind the house that
Yes.
goes across. If you
Yeah.
go across the footbridge, right to the right of that, there's a restoration area.
In the grass area?
Yeah,
So on the west side of the river? Is that what you're saying?
yes, yeah.
We're not
East
doing
side.
any,
East side.
You cross over the river and it's,
Where all that grass is.
And it goes right up into the banking.
which side is it on?
okay, if you're on East Street, you go across the little footbridge
Yes.
behind the house. And
Like right
the
here.
path that goes up to the house. Now, to the right of that area.
Do we have a plan for that? I mean, what, was it done under an order?
Yeah, that was,
I think that's right behind Lot 4 on the lower left-hand corner. You can see your trees separated.
Where the cart path is?
no, it's-
Behind 4, Lot 4.
Yeah, there's,
it's the footbridge.
Oh, there's a little path
I
between
see
the
the
trees.
footbridge, yeah.
Yeah, okay, to the right, after you cross the river, to the right of that, there's an area there that was a restoration project.
And when was that?
When?
Was it prior to 2021?
Probably,
So it's included in the BVW as shown on the plan.
okay.
Yeah, but I don't know if there's any restrictions or DEP has total authority of what can be done there or not.
I don't think anything's being done there.
Nothing's being done there. I mean, we're just doing some restoration up on the bank there. We're not touching the BVW.
I think it's out of there.
Yeah, this is the closest area.
Yeah, okay.
And if it was restored as a
That's the
wetland,
cap-
then it must have
that's
been
the cap.
flagged in 2021.
Footbridge, yeah.
But I don't know what bridges, but
Here's the footbridge right
There's the
here.
flags.
These are the areas in
Around.
here.
yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not quite sure what area it was, but
I just would recommend looking into it and see if it's a restricted area that, you have to show it on the plan.
Well, we will, but if in 2021 it was flagged as a and if it's a wetland already because it was restored as a wetland,
Yeah.
it's already been flagged. We're not touching it. So we will check into it. Diana, do her magic. See if she can find it. So if there's no more questions for me at the moment, I can turn it over to Laura and she could talk
Okay.
about,
okay, I am going to share screen that says you have to unshare first. All right. Hi, I'm Lauren Gluck from Park Corporation. I'm going to talk a little bit about the compensatory mitigation being proposed for the project, and then I can get into a wildlife habitat evaluation we did for impacts to riverfront area. So this is sheet 5.5 of your plans. If we zoom in right here to the driveway crossing, you'll see this shaded area here. This is the proposed wetland fill as a result of the driveway crossing. It's a IVW under the Foxborough bylaw, not state jurisdictional, and there will be about 1,039 square feet of that area filled for the roadway crossing, which follows approximately along where there is a cart path, but there is some widening needed, and widening it in the other direction would result in a BBW alteration, which we would need to avoid with the ACEC. So to offset those impacts under the bylaw, we're required to do 2-to-1 mitigation to any wetland under the bylaw. So this opportunity was identified adjacent to the roadway. Here is the wall. Here is the existing BBW edge here. And then there's this kind of wedge-shaped area between the stormwater basin along this pretty disturbed slope bordering the access road. So the intent here would be to carve out that area to the elevation matching the adjacent wetland, and then plant it with a variety of native trees, shrubs, and wetland seed mix. This area currently is mostly, the understory is pretty choked out with invasive vines and shrubs. And also there's quite a bit of disturbance along the slope. There's some debris and erosion. So this plan would restore that with a dense vegetative cover. And then also this side slope here, the upland slope adjacent to it would be stabilized with a variety of upland species, providing a dense vegetative buffer.
So Laura, just explain, you're going to be digging into that part of that slope
Yeah,
along that wall and flatten it out, the elevation to what?
to match the elevation of the wetland. So I think that's approximately going to match this contour here. But anytime we have mitigation projects, they're dictated by the conditions you find in the field, and typically it's conditions so that a wetland specialist would need to be on site and make sure as the excavation's going on that we're reaching that the depth where the hydrology is present in the soil to reach the desired hydrology.
Based on the information that was submitted in your report, it sounded like that probably is going to be sandy gravel buried under that hillside, and you have to go down deeper to bring in a mixed soil that replicates the border vegetative, right?
So we would go down typically 12 inches below the finished grade. So this is just kind of an approximate cross-section here. So you tie into you want the resulting grade to be at the elevation of the BBW, but you want to carve out 12 inches below that and then backfill it with a nice high organic content soil so that it's a better medium for the plants. So it would be about 12 inches below that grade as dictated in the field, and then backfilled with, usually it's like a mix of loam and compost, about 50-50, and then planted with the variety of trees, shrubs. We have yellow birch, red maple, spice bush, silky dogwood, and high bush blueberry, which are present in the surrounding less disturbed wetlands, and then some wetland seed mix. And then also, if there are rocks or trees that have to be removed as part of the replication, we would recommend those be salvaged and then replaced as habitat features in the wetland once it's constructed. In addition to the wetland replication, this hatched area kind of extending along this slope next to the detention basin here, and then extending kind of around the top here. This is some proposed riverfront restoration we're doing. These are areas that will either be disturbed by the project in riverfront area temporarily that we would like to revegetate with a natural plant community, or areas that are already disturbed. For example, up here, you can kind of see the tree line here, and there's a tree line here, and this is all kind of, I think it's mowed lawn at this time. So we saw an opportunity to be proactive and establish that with some native species as well, and provide a more continuous buffer of native plants along between the development and this corridor along the Canoe River. So in total, there's about 3,030 square feet of riverfront area restoration, in addition to the wetland replication. So at this time, if anyone has questions on the replication or restoration, I'd be happy to answer those, or I can just move on to the wildlife.
I always have a question.
Sure.
So the mitigation is for just that small filled-in area?
To offset the isolated wetland disturbance, because Foxborough requires 2 to 1.
Okay. So now, in the riverfront area, Bill, you can explain this a little bit better. We have the significant basin that is going to disturb, that riverfront area. But and when you look at the riverfront mitigation,
The upper right corner.
Up.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
a lot smaller than
So if you
the
zoom in
basin
on-
size. I just.
You want the tables?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the way the riverfront works is, if you can look at, Lauren just kind of zoomed in on the table again, this is 5.5. So we put some tables in there for you to kind of lay it out. So the existing condition, there's
38.
38,000 roughly square feet of riverfront area. And there's currently about 28, 26 of it that's degraded, which means there's no dirt, it's gravel. So what we're proposing here is, if you go into that, again, the next one, this is the proposed conditions. The total riverfront area doesn't change, of course, but we have a replication or restoration area, 3320 square feet. That doesn't count. Let me step back. The regulations allow you to have up to 10% alteration of riverfront for a project. So what that means is we can have up to 13,894 or 13,898 square feet of alteration, but that does not include any stormwater. It doesn't include any restoration, replication, or compensatory storage. So you're absolutely right. You look at that basin and you look at the restoration and replication and go, wow, you're way over your 10%, and we are, but it's not counted toward it. The only thing that's counted is the roadway and the walls, et cetera. And then this is where I get back to where I started at the beginning. So lots 2 and 4, the back of those lots are within the riverfront area. If we're doing work on those, in that area, which I fully expect we will be, it cannot be more than that 5,000, whatever,
52.
5,052 square feet. Because if we go over that, plus the 8,000 we're already altering with the road, now we've broken the 10% and we're not in compliance. So my suggestion to the commission would be, if the commission chooses to approve this, that would be a condition. And I think John touched on that in his memo. That would be a condition that whoever comes back for any work on lots 2 and 4 cannot go over 5,000 square feet, because the project has to be considered as a whole, not just
Individual lot.
individually. Can't be segmented.
Cumulative.
Cumulative, yes.
In addition, most of the area of this large basin is actually outside the tree line, so it's in areas that are currently maintained as lawn by the owner. There's a little bit of clearing involved, but most of that's pretty early successional brushy stuff. This might be a good jumping off point to get into the wildlife evaluation we did for riverfront area. Any project where you have over 5,000 square feet to a riverfront area typically requires a wildlife habitat evaluation, and then when you more than twice exceed the threshold, which we would here, you would do a detailed wildlife evaluation, Form B. So we submitted that as an appendix to the NOI. I am just going to pull up a figure here. Let's see. I gotta go back to my, oh, I'm so confused here. Okay. Where is that? It's hiding. The tab I want is hiding here. Okay. So this is kind of a different view of the property. It's over an aerial photograph with some of the line work showing the proposed work. But this is to illustrate the areas we looked at for our wildlife habitat evaluation and kind of how we broke them down. This light teal color here, this is the total riverfront outline on the site, which is also intersected by red. The red are the impact areas within the riverfront area. So this just shows the overall riverfront area, kind of goes all the way to the property line, down to East Street, and then back up around this way here. Here's the Canoe River right here, and there's some wetlands down here. This is all outside of our work area, closer to the river. And then there are 3 pretty distinct impact areas within the riverfront that we evaluated separately. We did a separate Form B for each, just because they're each treated differently under the regulations and also just a distinct piece of the project. So impact area 1 that we looked at was the roadway, outlined here. Impact area number 2 was the stormwater basin and wetland replication, which are adjoining one another, which is here, outlined like that. And then impact area 3 is the portion of the riverfront area on those 2 house lots that intersect with the riverfront area. Now, this entire area would not be impacted, as Bill was saying, that there would be restrictions on how much of that could be, but as part of our evaluation, we wanted to make sure to take a look at the whole riverfront on those parcels and see if there was anything significant to potentially suggest avoiding. So the way this worked was we went into each of these 3 areas and filled out the detailed wildlife evaluation to see if any of the important habitat features were found in each of those areas. And then we took a look at the overall riverfront area on the entire site to quantify any of those features that were found in the impact area, to compare and see, are those features being provided in the impact area in a way that's not better provided elsewhere on the site. So if you like, I can kind of go through the findings of that and which habitat features we did find and just kind of how it matches with the overall site. So
Lauren, when did you do the assessment?
it was within the last month. Let me just check. It would say right here in the top of my reports.
It's January and February. Yeah. In the report.
So I asked that because, if we're looking
February
for breeding
6th.
sites for certain species, like this is not the time you're gonna find breeding species, right?
No, it's not. But the wildlife evaluation that's done under the DEP guidance doesn't really look for specific species. You're more looking at the habitat features and the potential to provide habitat, like tree cover and species composition and different features, rather than doing a survey of wildlife. So it was done on February 6th, so about a month ago.
So, I'm sorry, I want to go back. So
It's
I'm
okay.
looking at it, so on page 4 of 8 of your protection guidance, it's asking, is there standing water, at least partially growing season suitable for, how can we have standing water at this point? I mean, if it was done in January, it's frozen, or it might have been dry.
There was standing water. It wasn't that cold in February.
You said you did it in January.
I went out on February 6th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There was a different investigation we did in January to evaluate the restoration opportunities. And then after that, we went back to do the wildlife evaluation.
But the wildlife valuation wasn't in the wetlands.
It was in the riverfront area, some of which overlapped with bordering vegetated wetlands in the overall site.
Okay,
And it also overlapped with the isolated wetland.
okay.
Yep.
'Cause
Now,
you-
are you considering the river itself as a habitat corridor?
The river?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I certainly would think the river and then the immediately surrounding areas would be part of a habitat corridor, which we're staying out of. And so that was part of our evaluation, because as part of this study, what you're required to do is look at what is on your site in comparison with what you're impacting. So the first thing we did was look at what was in our impact areas, and then for whatever we found. So for example, one of the categories is important food plants. So, you're almost always going to find a food plant. You're going to find an oak tree or a high bush blueberry. So if you find those there, then you have to compare it with your overall site. So all of this blue, including the river and the banks, we did kind of take a look at those too. Even though the river itself is not part of riverfront area, we wanted to just get an overall sense of the ecology of the area. So we did look at it. And, in general, if you want the synopsis, is that there were no features being provided in these red areas that were not provided in greater magnitude and density outside of these red areas. most of these red areas are disturbed. This alignment of the roadway, part of it's forested, part of it's an old gravel cart path. There's a lot of invasive species. The area of the detention basin, you can kind of see here where the tree lines are and where the lawn is. Most of this is lawn, areas that have been maintained over time. There are some, piles of logs and landscaping debris and things like that as well. And then in the back, the house lots had more of the most pristine riverfront impact areas, I would say, with some more mature forest, some less disturbed understory in these kind of triangular shaped areas here. But we didn't find any specific features in those areas that were really outstanding and not provided elsewhere in greater magnitude.
So, reading your report, which is great, it's a lot of fun, really. But how do you separate impact area 1, 2, and 3 under your field data forms? Because I'm not seeing that the first one is impact area 1.
Okay, so the first page is the summary sheet, so there's
Right.
1, 2, and 3. Let me just make sure we did this correctly. So then the next page, there's going to be a series of 3 of these packets from page 2 on.
Okay.
So impact area 1, roadway crossing. So that's,
That's where it's listed? Okay.
yeah, so it says, because you just correspond back to the first page, so you list out your 3. And then, so this is 1. And then there's a whole packet of impact area 1. And then after that should be a whole packet of 2 and 3. So, yeah, and it's kind of long. So this is the end of impact area 1. So this will just give you a sense of kind of how we looked at this. So this is a summary table. So on the preceding pages, there's a list of habitat features, and you have to say if it's present or absent. A lot of them are absent because a lot of them are specific towards wetlands, and we're in an upland resource area, riverfront area. But here are the ones that we did find in our impact area 1. So we have important food plants. We have, a list of food plants we found in our impact area. Standing dead trees, we found a few. Woody debris on the ground, we found some logs on the ground, making up about 0 to 3% ground cover. Logs, trees under the water surface. This is pertaining to the isolated wetland. There is some shallow standing water there, so we had to check off that box. And then overhanging branches within a meter of the water surface, same thing. So then we're quantifying, okay, impact area 1, how many of each food plant do we have? Here we go. How many dead trees do we have? How much cover do we have of these other features? And then you're looking at current entire site and then post-construction entire site. So post-construction would take into effect like what's coming away. So you'd subtract it from the entire site, which is that entire blue polygon of your whole entire riverfront area on the site. So you can see here, for example, with the food plants. These are the food plants we found in our impact area 1. When we did our site-wide sweep, these are all the food plants we found. And we counted other ones that weren't in our impact area because there were other food plants. There was a higher plant diversity outside of our impact area. So any of those plants that we found, we tallied here. And then post-construction would just be this minus whatever's in our impact areas, all of our impact areas, which gets confusing because each one has a separate sheet. But we double-checked our math, and hopefully it's right. So does that kind of cover how this process works with looking at, so that form would have been looking at, okay, what's in this box 1 versus what's in this box, overall site. And then we did the same thing for number 2 and number 3.
Quite detailed.
It was detailed.
I think
Yeah,
too, though,
and if you'd like to see some photos, that might be helpful to get some context. So,
what I'm just trying to understand is how the blue block area, you only included 3 impact areas.
yep,
But how did the blue block area get evaluated, or was it evaluated?
yes.
Because it is a connector, and I think, didn't we have a couple reports about mink in that area?
I think mink, I know I've seen fisher cats
Yeah.
running up and down, but
You have both in that area.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I
if
think
there's-
otter have been killed on East Street as well.
Otter?
Yeah, we've had water in Beaumont's Pond, yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
So there's your connection.
I don't really understand because we did evaluate the overall riverfront on site that's not being impacted and what is being impacted. So we tallied up what was in the impact area for those specific habitat features you're looking at. And then we counted how many are in this wider blue area where we're not impacting, and then seeing what was present there for those features. And, you know, the narrative kind of goes a little more in depth of the conditions there. But, you know, it certainly is a corridor. It's a nice river here, and you've got some woodland. There's a lot of invasives throughout some of it, but then as you get further back here, it's, you know, a nice forested corridor that will remain so. And then the portion of the development back here will continue to provide a connection up into that conservation land.
So being the plants are dead, and following up Peter's question, plants are dead, you have to evaluate what you see on the ground.
The plants aren't really, like, the woody vegetation's not dead.
No, but I'm all looking
You
at
mean
the
the herbaceous?
emergence of
There-
vegetation.
You'd be surprised at what you can see. You know, you can see a lot of, we didn't get a lot of snow this year. There is a dense herbaceous cover. You can see all the sensitive fern and the rushes and sedges and stuff. It was pretty green. If you want to see the photos, I can pull them up now.
No, we saw them in your book, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, if anyone wants me to kind of go through the photos so you can get a visual, I can, on the different impact areas. This is just standing at the top of the existing cart path. This is that isolated wetland. We're looking, oopsie. Hate when that happens. So this is looking down there. So this is impact area 1. This is kind of the top of the slope at impact area 1, where there are some trees. There's some oaks and some blueberries. This is where our replication area kind of ties into the slope up here. We did find a standing dead tree about 18 inches diameter, which we'd put in our recommendations to try to grade around, which I think is feasible because it's kind of at the elevation of the wetland. This is kind of a typical view of the kind of maintained areas on the property where the stormwater basin is going to go. This is a look at kind of the parcels, I think it was lot 1 and 4 area where we have some trees, but some brush piles and stuff. So there's some moderate disturbance and some trails back there. You'll see another trail back here that kind of cuts through one of those lots now, but there is some more pristine habitat with a little bit less invasives. And then this is just a view down by that little footbridge over the Canoe River. There's some maintained areas down there. This is outside of our work area for the project, but it was part of our evaluation area. So we did look at the river, the banks, and the wooded areas closer down to the river. This is a closer view at the river, the banks.
wasn't that the area of the horse farm was?
The what?
They had a horse farm down there?
No,
No?
not there.
And then this is just that little area on the other side of the river. There's kind of a wedge-shaped area between East Street and the river. So that was also evaluated as part of the riverfront outside of our work area. This is a typical view of the BVW that is not being touched, that provides a nice corridor along the river, which is back in the background here. And then some more views of the BVW. And then this is
The slope.
the slope, kind of the slope area where I think up here might be where some of those restoration plantings are going to happen. And then this is facing kind of down. And the map that I have here with all these numbers, this directs you to what photo you're looking at. So that would have been kind of on this slope here. So actually outside of the work area.
So when they do the mitigation with the heavy machinery, and do the whoever's in charge require them to scrape the bottoms as they back out so it loosens all up?
to scrape the bottoms of,
What, they go down to 12 inches, they
Mm-hmm.
find them at whatever level. But you get heavy machinery in there, so you're compacting it, which sort of defeats the purpose. Do they require them to,
Soften it.
to like aerate it if you're going through a wetland?
well, the mitigation areas?
I'm not really sure from what angle they would be doing that work, but they wouldn't be going through the BVW to get to it.
No, I don't mean that, it's just
Okay.
saying,
After they go and dig it out and then they
Right.
get to the subgrade?
before
Yeah.
they bring in the loom, a compost
Yeah.
loom.
Typically when I'm on site observing one of these, it does get a bit compacted and I'll encourage them to kind of do a little mound and pool, make it a little messy like a wetland, and then bring in that 12 inches, and then sometimes the 12 inches does settle a little bit, but they're, moving the equipment out at that point. They're not driving over and over it again.
Right.
They're just dumping it over what they graded out.
Just one last thing. Page 7 of 8, on the habitat degrading. You
Page
checked
7
off
of what? I'm sorry.
Habitat,
Of the habitat evaluation?
yep, page
Okay.
7 of 8.
7 of 8, okay.
You
On the
checked off
form.
Evidence of significant chemical contamination.
Hold on one second. Yeah, there is a section that asks you to note where there is,
7 of 8?
Yeah.
yeah, there's 3 different packets in there, so
Okay.
let me just see if I
Okay.
can find the one you're
It's the
talking
last
to.
packet.
The last packet? Okay, because it's chemical?
Oh, okay.
Okay, hold on a sec.
Yes, okay.
I'll find it. Last packet. Oh, chemical contamination. We saw some canisters. I don't remember what they were, but we just saw some types of canisters in the riverfront. Just paint cans, maybe? So we checked the box that there could be some material being stored there, but we're not sure of what it is.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's significant, though. There was more significant, when we said dumping, it wasn't like waste, material. It was more just like branch piles. There was a big brush pile and some logs.
Okay.
So there, it's a disturbed area. It's where there's already a home and associated, storage areas.
No, that's fine. I just want to find the right packet.
Mr. Buckley, has anything been staked out? Because I'm sure we're going to do a site walk.
Tell me what you want me to stake out, and we'll stake it out. Tell me what what things you're interested in seeing, and we'll mark them.
Obviously, the road and the highlights of the restoration areas.
Especially the side of the road where it's
Yeah, well, that's,
going
yeah,
right up.
yeah. And Mr. Thomas is on vacation now, so I don't know what his schedule will be. I know he's going to be back this Friday because we've got a site walk on Goodwin, and we can make plans at that time to do a site walk for this.
That's fine. And we can do multiple sidewalks. I know it's hard to get everybody together. So if you want to do a couple, it's fine. Whatever you want to do. So give us, we're not going to be ready for Friday.
Yeah,
But after you guys talk to John, I'm not going to be there Friday. But you guys can discuss it and then get back to me any other things you want to see. But I'm just going to mark down, right now, we're going to do the walls, which is basically it, and we'll do the center line of the road, so you can see that, and we'll do the restoration areas. We'll
Okay.
we'll put stakes along there.
So, did the basin take in consideration the driveways running off into the road?
Yes. So we take into account all impervious areas, including all roof runoff. Now, some of the roof runoff runs off to the back. Like if you're going up the road, some of those houses on the left, the runoff is gonna go to the back. It's just not gonna, but all of that runoff will also, and it's been done for years, and we capture all the roof runoff and infiltrate it up to the 2-inch storm. Everybody goes, well, what does that mean? So just to give you some idea, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 90 to 95% of all storms in our little part of the world is half an inch or less. So a 2-inch storm's a pretty good storm. So these roofs will take it and infiltrate the 2-inch storm. We don't even take that into account when we're doing the basing calculations. We just assume that they don't exist. So we do take into account all of the, any impervious area.
Okay. Anything else from the board at this time? Do you have any comments from the audience? Yes. If you come up and use the microphone, please. Mr. Spillane, can you move your? Yep. Just come up and use the microphone.
Okay. But I think that room.
No, you've got to use the microphone because we're being recorded.
Sit down, ma'am. Ma'am, sit down.
Okay.
There you go.
Your name for the records, please.
I am Maria Odler, and I'm not speaking as so good English as I would love to, but we are refugees from Czechoslovakia after Russia's invasion. That's why I'm very sorry, but we love America. We are thankful to be. But about this, you know, I am a person who was working whole life in the hospital. And I know what does it mean to be sick, to be very sick, and to be healthy. And here we are coming to question what should we do? You know, I want to ask, how many houses will be here built?
It was 12 house lots.
12 houses.
12.
You can imagine that these 12 houses will have at least 24 people. And these people will have at least one car per one house. And what I want to say, you know, when you are going and you have pretty many people, you have to be responsible for them, but you have to take that those people, if they want or not, they will go with cars up and down. And this lady said about chemical contamination. This is a very important thing. There is gasoline, there is oil, there is everything what this tire can bring, you know. And when it's raining, it is not waiting on some place. It is going to water, and this water is coming farther and farther, and there are many people who are living there. And I want to tell you how this water is extremely important for our children, for all of us. Because just a short time ago I heard that asbestos is spreading and is creating cancer. You know, and this oil, everything what these cars are bringing is going to water, washing down. And these people later, okay, it is only water, yeah, but what everything there is. And we have to, with all our conscience, we want to live, we want to have a living and happy our children, and here this place where we have to think about it. You know what, we cannot take on our conscience that we will overlook that, and maybe there is flower, but what is dangerous? And we are spreading by this new community where is a river, and the river is spreading far, very far by so many people, and they don't deserve it. And here I am, and we are living so many years in Foxborough. I am here very happy, and I want that even this other will be happy. And when you see that your child is dying, because I would feel that we are responsible for it. And that's why we have to, with our conscience, think about it and not do to anybody bad. This was all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Okay, all the best. Thank you.
Anyone else?
No, I just have a quick one.
You got to use the microphone, sir.
Wrong way. Yeah, Jim Loible, 184 East Street. I'm just up on the hill on the Canoe River that runs through our property, and I know the area well. I know this feature. I just have two questions about this project. Is it anticipated that any existing homes will be demolished?
I think the existing Barbado home will be demolished and
The one in the back?
one in the back.
Okay, that's question number one. Question number two, from the drawings, I'm trying to visualize or figure out exactly where Mr. Hunt's current driveway is relative to the road.
That's the reason why we're going to do a site walk, and Mr. Buckley is going to lay out the proposed driveway.
Yeah, I heard that, and that's great. Because originally I thought possibly the roadway is centered on his existing driveway, but I don't
think it is,
No.
but that's one thing I want to find out myself.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay.
Oh, it's close.
Yeah, I know.
The driveway just nicks.
Yeah.
Tom Hunt, 206 East Street. I have so many questions and concerns, we could probably fill about 3 hours here, but I'll try to shorten it up a little bit. Did all of you receive the email letter that I sent today?
We did.
I apologize for getting it out so late. Probably didn't have time to read through it. Anyways, is it a rule of the River Protection Act that lots cannot be combined and created for wetlands crossing after 1996's River Protection Act went into effect?
I'm not the expert on the rules and regulations. That's the reason why we're going to wait for John Thomas, the agent, to respond to that.
Okay.
If I gave you an answer, it would be a maybe.
I believe you though, Bob. The last several applications that came in front of you, I believe all the applicants were told they need to build a bridge.
I don't think they were told that they needed to build a bridge. It was their design that the access would be a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
I think this access is a little bit different than the other ones prior.
Okay.
But again, that's the reason why we want to do the site walk to see exactly where.
Well, Jane Pierce told me that several years ago, Mr. Buckley came before the board and asked, what's it going to take to develop this project? And the board's answer was build a bridge.
Don't think Mr. Buckley was Mr. Bottomley maybe, but I'm not sure. I don't think Mr. Buckley's been before us on this project before.
Okay.
We've had some interesting engineers, but
My next question is about the reduction of the bank. They're going to take that bank down level or below the wetlands level?
that's another site visit that we're going to
Okay.
discuss and figure out exactly where. A plan is fairly good, but I like hands-on.
Okay. And isn't an inland bank protected by the Corps of Engineers?
That's a John Thomas answer.
Because I believe Judith Johnson commented previously that that would require a permit from the Army Corps of Engineers to remove anything from that bank.
It could be.
And then if the bank is removed down to the level of the wetlands, I mean, that's going to cause immeasurable runoff into the wetlands.
Can I just get a clarification? Laura, the bank that we're talking about is the two sides of the actual Canoe River itself.
The banks of the Canoe River are not in our limit of disturbance.
Right. But
Which are shown in blue here.
But the area at the end by the bordering vegetated wetlands is not a bank.
No, that's going to adjoin a BVW, so there's a pretty wide stretch of vegetated wetland between the bank and our work area, and then this here is where the vegetated wetland edge is,
You're
which
not
is
on,
on the plan. You want me to pull it?
well,
Might be better.
you can't,
I'm just
Sorry.
saying that the definition of a bank.
Yeah, we're
is
not impacting
relative to
bank.
the Canoe River and not relative to the bordering vegetated wetlands.
No, yeah,
Okay.
and we're not impacting the bank or the bordering vegetated wetlands, but we are adjoining with a new wetland.
Right, right. I
Yeah.
just wanted definition clarified.
I think the previous had,
I'm speaking about the bank where the road will
go up.
go.
Yeah.
That wouldn't-
I believe Judy commented previously that that's under the jurisdiction of the Army Corps of Engineers.
I don't know about that.
That was, she made that comment, and she was wrong. And that's what the DEP decided, that the bank was the bank where the river is, not upstream, which is where, I guess it was Judy and maybe Jane. So that the bank that we're talking about, it is a bank, but it's not a bank under the Wetlands Protection Act.
Is that the superseding order of conditions? Is that what?
Superseding order of conditions, because reading that, what was alleged, I guess is the term, that it was going up that hill, because at some point, perhaps it had been inundated for some reason, but the DEP came back and said, the bank is where you would call a bank, where the river is now, that is the bank, which is what is shown on our plans. We're not working within 60 feet of that bank. So we don't fall under the jurisdiction of the Corps of Engineers. We're not filling any wetlands. We're not filling any bank.
I'm also curious to how wide this culvert is going to be, and I know the basis of a culvert, the water flows through the middle, but the rest of the structure pretty much creates a dam. And I don't have to bring out the folder of pictures. You've all seen them before. That whole area inundated with water, even going over East Street. You know, we have an inadequate culvert under East Street that was called inadequate back in the 1980s by the Canoe River Aquifer Advisory Commission. So now we're going to put a second culvert in a problematic area that's prone to flooding every time we get a heavy rain. I think a little common sense would go a long way there on what the possibilities could be with that. Also, there's been documentation from the town, I believe the town engineer, that no discharge will be allowed from the road, the access road or bridge or culvert into the wetlands, and no water could be discharged onto East Street. So, I mean, are they going to stand out there with buckets and catch this runoff, or?
That's the peer review with Sampson and Wesson and Sampson. That's their runoff. That's stormwater management is under their purview.
Okay, and
Well, just a clarification, Bill. On your plan, 4.1, it shows the culvert, box culvert is a 4x4,
Correct,
4 feet by 4 feet.
yes.
And the two drains at the end of this proposed road go into a manhole, and it seems like it goes up. But am I wrong on that?
They go into yes, and they go into the culvert. So they'll go into the culvert after they go through the storm scepter.
Okay, there's a second manhole on top of that culvert,
Yes.
okay. So you will be discharging that
Yes,
from the upper drains to the street into that culvert system?
there's about 190 feet of road that we don't capture the runoff because it's just because of the slope. So that runoff will go into a catch basin, through a storm scepter, be cleaned, and then discharged into the wetlands. So what we can
Well,
do,
Technically, it's not being discharged in the wetlands, it's being discharged into
Into
the
the culvert,
culvert.
yes.
That man-made culvert,
Yes.
disturbed area.
right, and it eventually makes its way into the wetlands. You're right, there's no direct discharge into a wetland. And what we do is we have to balance the site. So today, there's, there's a lot of water coming off that hill, goes down into the river. And so what we do is we set up a study line along the river, basically along the wetland line. And we study how much water, the rate of runoff hitting that line is for the different storms. And then we do a post-construction, so you can see post-construction, we're gonna capture a lot of that runoff by the roadways. The road is gonna hit the road, it's gonna get captured by the road, brought down into the basin, infiltrated. Some of it will still go into that culvert, but it will be less than what is there today. So we're capturing and we're keeping the rate of runoff below what it is today, which is the requirement of the DEP stormwater standards. And you're right, we have the town hires a peer reviewer, and that peer reviewer will make sure that the design is in compliance with the DEP stormwater standards, the local bylaws, and the local planning board bylaws as well.
I just wanted to comment that it appears some of these lots are on the area of where illegal gravel removal was under order from the DEP. I'm not sure what the status of that order is, Bob. But
I'm not sure, it was town as well. I'm not sure what the results of, because that was a town gravel permit. I'm not purview of what the decision was, because I think that fell in the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, but the DEP filed charges on that. There was a DEP letter of conditions.
I'm not aware of what it could be on file in the office, but I'm not aware of what it was.
Yeah, because there was never a permit from the town for that.
No, a lot of things were done there without a permit.
Yeah, but there definitely was I'll see if I can find the paperwork on that.
Okay.
Think of what else I had. The town has already documented the fact that they would not accept this as a town road. In fact, Chris Gallagher wrote a letter, which I can send you, that says they won't accept it as a town road. No snow will be able to be plowed off a bridge or culvert. The snow must be removed by a homeowners association. The septics and the street sweeper will have to come 3 or 4 times a year at the cost of the homeowners association, and that all the water retention projects that they build will have to be maintained by a homeowners association in perpetuity. So I think that's something to consider.
I think that was the prior filing. Mr. Buckley has indicated that this is not going to be a private road.
Okay.
So that Mr. Gallagher will have to relook at that from that point of view.
All right.
That's, again, out of our purview.
Yeah.
But the reason why I had asked about whether it's going to be a private road or not, if it was going to be a private road, then we couldn't ask for an access point to the open space. So if it's going to be a public road, we can.
Yeah. That open space is accessible from Willow Street.
I know, it's a large open space. It's available from other areas, but this would be just another access point. That's
Okay, I think that's it.
okay for tonight. Any other questions, comments from the audience? If not, I'll entertain a motion to continue until,
Can I have one question for Bill? Sorry. Bill, on sheet 2.1, you have a future, edge of future aquifer area.
Yes.
Why did you put that in there? And does that influence the end of that road area?
It's a zoning in Foxborough. They have this, to be mean, made-up future aquifer zone, which when town was doing its Zone 2 maps, you know, most of it was real science. They did borings, they did hydraulics, hydrology, not hydrology, but hydraulic study to figure out where our Zone 2s are. And then they just kind of drew this in here. So that's a zoning issue. It's not an aquifer for Foxborough, it's not an aquifer for Mansfield, it's not an aquifer for Sharon. But what we have to do is, within that area, zoning requires 60,000 square foot lots, or in this particular case, the lots have to be 30,000 square feet. So as you can see, none of the lots are within it, so it doesn't really matter. So it's a zoning thing, really has nothing to do with conservation or Board of Health or anything like that.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Understand?
Yeah.
Can we push this, because we don't even have our response yet from, so I think 2 weeks would be, I think we need to
Okay.
push it off till like,
okay, it's either April 1st or the next one is the 29th.
okay,
So the 29th is, and you're meeting with the planning board in between now and then, correct?
I think we're
28th.
meeting with them next week, right?
28th of March.
So April
29th.
29th.
Somebody want to make that motion?
Make a motion for continuance of DEP 157-636 till April 29th.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
All right,
Opposed? All right.
Do we, sidewalk, do we know?
Let me contact John first, and,
So maybe a week from Friday,
yeah,
tentatively, I'll just kind of rough that in?
yeah.
Okay.
You received John's comments, right?
I did, yes.
And you have a copy of Mr. Hunt's letter?
Yes, we did. Diana sent everything over.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Being 7:10 PM, we have a,
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetland Protection Act, and Foxborough's Wetland Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267, the Conservation Commission will open a public hearing on Monday, March 18th, 2024, at 7:10 PM in the Gala Meeting Room, Foxborough Town Hall, 40 South Street, or via Zoom on a notice of intent filed by the Foxborough Recreation Department for trimming and removing brush along the edges of shore for the town's annual fishing derby at the Neponset Reservoir off Laprelot Road, Assessors Map 34, Parcel 480. Portions of the proposed work lie within 100 feet of the resource area. The application is available for public inspection in the Conservation Office at Town Hall. This notice can also be found on the Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association website.
thank you.
I couldn't do it.
I know what you did here.
I didn't do anything. Hi,
Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
you don't need it. You can hold it. I think we have a couple people on Zoom, too.
What's that?
I
Okay,
think Mark and Renee are on Zoom.
all right.
A while ago, I don't know.
Maybe they went home, or stayed home, went to sleep, whatever.
May 19th.
What's that?
All set?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the commission. For the record, my name is Jim DeVellis. I'm a professional civil engineer with DeVellis Serene, and Heather Harding is the Recreation Director,
No, I'm the chairman of the Recreation Board. Close.
Chairman of the Recreation Board. So very briefly, if you recall, we were in front of the commission back in November of '23, representing, for lack of better terms, the fishing derby. So the fishing derby has been going on for the last 16 years, started in 2008. And a few years ago, before COVID, we were asked to file, or the town was asked to file formally for permission to continue doing so. So we came in front in November and filed a request for determination, presented it, gave you the history, the protocol, and photographs. And at that time, the commission voted for positive determination for the request for determination, asking us to come back for a formal notice of intent. So following that, we met out at the site. Bob, you were there as a chairman.
Yep.
The representative of the commission, Rebecca, was there. The agent was there. And several members of the recreation board came out. We walked the site, and we came up with a plan to really show the areas specifically where we wanted to continue to clear, or the town wanted to continue to clear the brush. So we prepared a scaled aerial photograph plan and showed what's in front of you. There's about 18 small areas that are all located at the existing, the ends of existing paths. So there's no clearing, mass clearing, no clear cutting. And if you recall from the site walk, you go down these existing paths which are open, and there was just brush that grew up along the banks. And you can see during the site walks and in some of the photos that we presented, every year the town has cleared the edge of the water by just cutting at the top. There was no root removal, there was no digging, and each year it grows back. So if you go out there, you can see all the areas that were cut, and it just keeps growing back. So we're, through a formal notice of intent, just proposing the same thing that the town has been doing since 2008. So that's the technical. We've notified the abutter. We've advertised. We submitted the full notice of intent package. So if there's any questions from what we submitted, we'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, I want to go back a little bit in history. I went through minutes, spent many hours going through the minutes of from 2008 up through the paper minutes through 2016. 2008, there was no mention in any of our records of a fishing derby. Bill Hockin resigned in May of 2008, and Dave Rich left in late 2008. 2009, June 1, was the first mention of any fishing derby. And you had a new chairman that was scared beyond any belief of trying to follow Bill Hawkins' leadership of many years. There was about 2 lines in there. The chairman didn't call for a vote. There was no vote taken. There was just a little bit fishing derby. And with my history of the Lane property, I thought it was a fantastic idea. The area is great. Fishing derby was fine because I want people to use it. It's conservation land, should be used. There was no mention of brush trimming, cutting, anything. It was just the fishing derby was going to be held. Fantastic. We all agreed to it. From that day on through 2016, there was never, I could not find anything in any of the minutes mentioning a fishing derby. So it was, you ran it the first year in 2009 that I can find, and you just continued to run with it. We did not, I'm not complaining or anything, but I was never there at any of them. And I know the town did the clearing. My bad, I did not check on it. I didn't even think of asking about any clearing. So the history is you could throw it on me that I did not check any of it. So from there, it was just been in the last couple of years that Jane, talking to the highway, and found out that there was cutting going on. And that's started the whole procedure of why we're here tonight. So that being said, I just want to get that history out there. Sure.
It's not on you. We always have had we always had a conservation member on our rec board, and I think back when we started, it was Al, and then we had Val, and then, so we've always had a conservation member on our rec board that was our go-between and coordinated that stuff for us. So it didn't fall on you. I mean, it was
Okay.
always coordinated through our liaison and
Okay,
with
but
the
it
rec
was-
conservation office.
But it never came to the Conservation Commission at any of our meetings. So-
Correct. I mean, our liaison we were never asked to come to the Conservation Commission meeting, but I mean, we always had a liaison, and they always knew what was going on, and that was just always the way it was done. So, it's
Okay,
not on your fault, nobody's fault, really. I mean, that's just the way we always did things. That's why we
Okay.
have a liaison.
But I think the beauty of tonight, though, is you have the full notice of intent, and you can put conditions on it, and if a condition is to return every couple of years, or, don't return unless something changes, then we come back. I mean, that's what this process can address.
but I just want to clear that up, that,
Yeah, I think, Bob, I think what you're saying is we need better communication.
Sure.
We went back through your minutes for all last year, and there was no mention of, in the minutes, until May 8th minutes, where you canceled the meeting. So some of those meetings, because they meet on the same day, they meet on Mondays, is that right?
Yes.
So we're relying on the minutes, where we can't make the meetings when we have these, that's all. So if the minutes could be a little clearer on when you're discussing the fishing derby or something that relates to conservation.
You're talking about the Recreation Board meeting?
Correct.
Yeah.
minutes? Okay,
That's what we get.
gotcha, okay.
so I guess part of your preamble got me a little bit upset. Early on, Rec coordinated with Esther, Dave, and Bill in the Conservation Office. And Esther was here, but Dave and Bill were not in 2009. That's,
That would be me, but I remember we were talking to them about it, because we didn't know anything about it, and we needed help. So,
okay. All right, it's just, well, whatever.
yeah.
I was a little bit upset about some of the comments in here. So I've said my bit. Any questions, comments from the board about the fishing derby?
Do you know about how much area is being trimmed? I know you marked out the area.
Yeah,
but I don't
there's
see, like-
18 areas, and each area is really 5 to 8 feet wide, so.
But there, you don't have like a calculation of the total area being affected? I only ask because I feel like in the future going forward, it might make sense to have some sort of thing where it says like, these are the specific areas, and like you can trim an area not to exceed a certain
Yeah, so,
amount.
so
But
that-
if we don't know what the
that's,
current amount is, it's
so
hard
it's
to.
720 feet.
Okay.
So the plan that we submitted is a scaled engineered plan, and so, I apologize, the easel broke on the way up here.
That's okay.
It says, match area is typical, and these are the areas that are on there, and they're scaled. It says, represent areas to be cleared of brush to allow fishing access. All areas shown are at path access points to shore already. Brush to be cut at base and removed. No digging or clear cutting proposed. So this is actually scale drawing. So when we went out there, we actually spray painted, marked, a line, so it shows in real time and in real place.
Okay. Again, my concern is more like year to year, making sure that every year it's the same area, the same amount of area that's.
Yeah, and
being
my
maintained.
kids grew up, and I've been going the beginning. It's the exact same.
Yeah, I just mean like
It's the exact
rather
same
than
areas.
like.
That's why it was easy to put on a plan.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just to have it like very well documented,
Mm-hmm.
so we don't come back to the argument like this is how it's
Yeah.
been done and we all know it because we don't all know it. And eventually,
Yeah, and
none of us will
that,
be here, right?
I'm
It'll carry
agreeing with you,
on,
and then
so-
that's why when we went from the RDA with the request with pictures and a narration, it went to the notice of intent with an engineered plan
Yeah.
that you can scale it and carry it out there. So, point well taken.
It's not easily reproducible each year.
Okay. You got the comments from John Thomas about trimming, cutting, and did you?
We didn't receive any
Get
comments
anything.
back.
Oh, okay.
I can read them.
Well, it's easier.
I'll grab it.
Yes.
Top of page.
Okay.
He distinguishes between trimming, cutting, and clearing.
Yeah, I think he was just clarifying, but there's no, no exception to these comments. That's fine.
Okay.
You want this back?
Yeah, please. Thank you. Again, roughly how many people, how many people did you have 2 years ago?
The last derby that we had about 250 kids, I think.
That's what I remember from what you
Yeah.
talked about at the
And then
board
like
meeting.
like parents and stuff, but
Yeah.
only the kids
Yeah.
fish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rich?
As far as the number of participants, I think this year, given that we're really just getting started with this involvement on it, that we should try and target, over the years you've had from, I think 70 in 09, 180 in 10, 140 in 11, 180 in 12. You had 220, it looks like, in 13, but I'm not sure if that includes adults. 14 was 150, 16 was 150. I don't have any numbers for anything beyond that. But I'd like to see it restricted at this point to 150 and see how we do, see what the car impact is. I just think there needs to be some, maybe 150 isn't the right number, but I think there needs to be some restriction on the number of people. It can't be wide open, because then you have no control. We don't know how many people are going to park in the fields. There has to be some way to control this.
Do you want me to address that, Bob? Okay, so we had discussed this, and as I had promised you, Bob, and we kept to that, when we went out, we marked the absolute minimum amount. I mean, we'd like to do 10 times more, but as I promised you, we marked the absolute minimum amount that we felt we could run a marginally successful, fishing derby. It's a free town event. It is 80 acres. And while we do ask people to sign up ahead of time, because if they register, they get a T-shirt and free lunch, we don't restrict it in any way, and we don't have any way to restrict it. I mean, people can come in however they want, whenever they want. The only thing we can restrict is if we ran out of room to park, which we have never even come close to that. I mean, it's simply never been an issue. So for us, it's a lot of work, and it's a very long day, and it's just not, it's a free outdoor event for the town on 80 acres on Neponset. There's no real way for us to restrict it, and there's no real way for us to enforce it. We can't stop people from showing up to conservation land that the town bought that is open to the public.
You can't,
mean,
but
there's
you
just
can
no way
limit
to
the
do
number of
that.
participants that sign up for the Derby, which would in turn restrict it, even if you had additional people show up that didn't show up.
Yeah, that's not something that we would like to do.
What was that?
That's not something that we would like to do. We don't generally restrict our free townwide events, especially not when it's on 80 acres of conservation land. I mean, we have
No,
Light
no,
Up
it-
Town, we have the
it's-
Halloween parade,
About 2 acres.
Well,
But I think what's important is we've come with a plan to show you what we're clearing. So if more people show up, they'll go to an area that either won't be cleared or it'll be open. You know, we're not showing, you know, that whole dam, which is supposed to be cleared by the town, could fill up with people. The area on the other side could fill up with people. I think what she's saying is just hard to restrict it when the land is not the restricting factor.
My recollection, Heather, was when we discussed it at the rec board meeting, was actually most people were open to the idea of restricting it to certain numbers. I know that that does present some logistical issues, but it felt to me that the board agreed that they were open to the idea of restricting the numbers.
Not that I recall, and we talked about the fact that all we could do would be to try to shut off registration, except the problem with that then is it's a free event, so now you're providing something free for some people and not for other people, and we rely on our programs to generate revenue, and this is a marketing thing, you know, for us. So we can't really afford the bad will, and
I don't
to
think you get
try
bad
to-
will because you fill up an event. That's not bad will.
oh,
That's-
we do.
True, but many rec
Yeah.
events are restricted based on capacity.
Correct,
of
but at
buildings. So
Neponset, there
we
isn't a
just-
capacity. I mean, that's kind of,
There is
you know.
capacity in Neponset. That's what we're here
So,
for. 'cause there is
yeah,
a
I mean, when
capacity.
we went out and we walked it, the group of us that went out, we agreed that, and the rec board did, you know, they understood who was going out. We did agree that we would do the absolute minimum that we could do just to run the Derby the way we run it. You know, if people show up and they feel it's too crowded, they may choose to leave, and that is up to them. Or they may choose to try to come back, you know, later on in the day. I mean, the event only runs from 9 to 12, but for us, it's the, you know, day from about 8 to 3. So, logistically, that's just not something that we can do.
Okay, I know last year it was canceled. How many emails, comments did you receive complaining about it being canceled?
I'm not sure. When we canceled it, we only had about 110 families signed up. So, because we had to cancel it like the beginning of April. I want to say like the middle of April, maybe. So I'm not sure. I know we notified those 110 families, and, you know,
You
that
had
was
told
kind of
us
it.
in that meeting that we had here, not in the conservation, but there was over 250 people that you had signed up already?
Yeah,
You were
that-
expecting 400.
Correct. 110 families would be probably, yeah.
No, you told us 250 fishermen.
We wouldn't have had 250 kids signed up by April 15th. Families, yes, not kids.
Okay, 250 families? Or-
If- I believe, and I'd have to go back and look at the notes, I believe when we canceled it last year, we had 110 participants, which would be like 250 people so far. But it had only been open for, you know, a month.
Oh, okay.
Generally, you get 1 or 2 kids and 1 or 2 parents with the kids. So, you know, the goal kind of is a couple hundred kids, 400 people, plus we have volunteers. But we never know exactly. A lot of it's weather dependent. If the weather is crappy, we may have had 250 people sign up, and you might have 100 that show up because, you know,
Who wants to
who wants to fish in the rain? I mean, only the true diehard fishermen show up in the rain. So we just don't know.
I think we have to go back to the definition of, the management plan definition of trimming, which, as John pointed out, selective pruning branches and plants still have the ability to regrow versus cutting those bushes, anything down low to the stump. That can't be allowed. It's a learning process of pruning up upper branches and that, so that the plant can still sprout out new growth and keep on living and doing its job relative to the bank.
I think you're right, and I think that's, whatever the DPW has done since 2008, it works, because they have to do it every single year. So whatever they've done, and, you know, they wouldn't have to do it every year if they did something that killed the plants, but they do, because every year it grows back.
Yeah, but there are some remnants of plants out there that were cut down real low on the stumps, and this is a while back. So it's a learning process of communications that, you know, you're not gonna take out probably a lot of the brush that you would like to take out, or like someone suggested, you know, within certain distance of using a pole. And that's just a process of this management plan and teaching process too. Because some of those plants can recover very good, you know, high bush blueberries, they can make a comeback. And you don't need that much pruning on them. And then the last thing is, what's the relationship of this with the fields and the hay?
Lawton mows them for us before the Derby.
He does. Is that his first cutting?
I have no idea. I stop by, I tell him when the Derby is, he said, you'll be good to go. We've been
Okay.
doing that every year. I don't have any idea where in his schedule it is.
Because there's also concern that when you're mowing fields and the nesting bobolinks, they nest in the hay fields. And sometimes when you do cut it, sometimes you do run into them and the feathers fly. But parking in those areas could be a concern because we really need to manage it.
I think, I'm not as much concerned about the parking as I am the cutting.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's first thing, and
Okay.
it's part of management, but
Yeah.
So to get a little granular here, like, I was out for a walk there the other day, my wife, and I don't know which way you'd be facing. As you're going out on the point where the old foundation is, on the left-hand side, there's a mature tree that fell during one of the storms we had. It's into the water now, the branches in there are snags. Are you talking about removing stuff like that?
No.
Okay.
if anything, the fish would be hiding.
Well, I was gonna say, that's habitat, yeah, that's exactly where, you know, little fish hang out down there. It's, you lose a lot of bobbers, but you catch a lot of fish if you know what you're doing.
Any other comments? Questions?
Jim's there now.
Mr. Marsh is
Oh.
here.
Welcome. Any comments, Jim? Oh. Can you hear
How are
us?
you? I can hear you, yes.
Oh, okay. Did you just zoom in, or have you been on for a while?
I just got on.
Oh, okay. So, we're talking about the fishing derby at the present time, so,
Okay. Yeah, I see that on the agenda.
yeah.
Jim, can you put that poster up so that Jim can see it?
Which
Maybe-
camera? This one here?
I don't know which one. Can you see
Upside
this?
down.
If you move
Yes.
it this way. a
Oh,
little.
no, I'm upside down,
This
never
way.
mind. Be quiet now.
Okay,
Can be
there
the
you
Vanna
go.
White.
Can you see that, Jim?
I can, thank you.
Heather, you can angle it a little bit more towards us, and it'll show up better on the TV.
Like that? Is it upside down?
Perfect.
Okay, so, all right.
Jim, you want to explain what that you have done here in providing a management plan?
I think you probably have, yeah, okay.
Okay, so basically, this is a scale drawing, Jim, of the peninsulas. If you're coming down across the dam, this is out of the limits of what we're cutting or trimming. That's something that the town has to do on its own. But we're assuming that it's going to be cleared. If it's not, then we would step in and help the town do it for the fishing derby. Once you get through here, there's a area on the plan where there was a Scouts
Did a bridge.
Eagle Scout project. So that's a reference point. And then around here, there's little hatched areas that represent at the terminus end of existing pathways, the blueberry bush or shrubs that have grown up. So what happens is the kids get in there and they just can't get to the water, and it's kind of a little bit of mayhem with the families. So it's showing scaled areas around here that we can go in and just trim, cut at the base, remove it so they can fish, and then it grows back in the next year, and then we do it again. And that's been going on since 2008. So
Yep.
no,
Okay.
there's really no new areas or no new paths. It's just existing areas that keep growing up, and we cut them. There's no erosion, no siltation, and really no detriment because it keeps coming up.
Yep. Okay.
What we discussed was, you know, what type of management would be annually done out there. And John pointed out that trimming is selectively pruning branches and plants to still have the ability to regrow and not cutting the shrubs or bushes or anything down to the base, where it would take a lot longer for it to regrow. So that was another point of discussion. But they plotted out about 18 sites, existing sites, that
I love it.
kids and people have been fishing off of. Some of them are steep, and those total up about 700
720 square feet
square
total.
feet of area that to be maintained and nothing else. Maybe with the exception of the briars. If the briars become intrusive on the walking paths, then, you know, that's invasive, that can be removed as part of the management.
And just to clarify that calculation that I provided, if you go out towards the end of the point where the bench is,
Yeah.
and if you look at the pictures that I submitted, there's absolutely nothing there, right? Because it's pine needles.
Yeah.
We noticed that because if something grows up, we wouldn't be able to trim it. But if you go out there now, probably half of that is required if we had a fishing derby this year.
And I know a few kids that have all rolled right down that hill into the water.
Yeah. I guess my biggest problem is, Jim, you keep referring to cutting, and the terminology when it comes to vegetation management is as follows. Trimming is selectively pruning branches and plants which still have the ability for regrowth. Cutting is the removal of a plant, tree at the ground or base stump, more often than not would delay or stress potential regrowth. So,
It would be a condition, it would be trimmed, not cut.
okay, trimming, okay, I can,
We need to define that, I mean.
yeah, well, that's,
6 inch, well,
yeah,
how tall is a trim versus a cut?
okay, we'll get John to define
Can I
that.
just point out one thing?
Yeah,
Well, two things, I guess. There's been a lot of cutting out there, we've noticed when we went out over COVID, that has nothing to do with us or the town or anything else. I think it's just people that have gone out there and made their own fishing spots and stuff, and you can tell, because they leave the pile of, so I just wanted you to know that. There is some stuff that's been done that has nothing to do with any of us or this project. And the other thing, though, is, I mean, Chris Gallagher has been doing this for us probably always, all the way back to 2008, I don't know. So we've never gotten into with him, you know, how high and all that kind of stuff. But unless it's little stuff that you can step on, leaving like stumps that are this high are tripping hazards for people and kids, and that would be worse. You know, I mean, you can't have like a million 6-inch stumps everywhere that people walking along are gonna be tripping over. Just, you
well,
know.
So
yeah,
if we're talking about the water, by the water's edge, that wouldn't be a problem, right?
I mean, as long as it's not where someone would have to walk or stand. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying is like,
Right, but
you
being
know,
out there, it's
yeah.
mostly like you pointed out,
Right at
these
the
are
edge.
already established
Yes.
areas, so
exactly.
the lead up to the edge is generally clear
That's
of
what I'm
that
thinking.
stuff.
Right.
So
Right.
it really is just
Right.
so
trimming that should need to be
yeah,
done.
so I would like to get say a height from John to agree to the trimming, not cutting, because cutting to me is going down too far. So,
To Rebecca's point earlier, because I can't help myself, just using Google Earth from the edge of the dam, just the shoreline, the amount of shoreline, you got the acres on there, it's roughly about a half a mile of shoreline if you roughly go all the way around. Like, so if you go a perimeter of like where it opens up, like where the dam starts, and just go around the peninsula and then come back to the bridge, we're talking about a half a mile worth of shoreline, plus or minus a little bit, so. So I know that question came up before. So when we're looking at those areas and how much that can help us figure out, right? So if it's I don't know what the cumulative was, however many feet, 700 feet or however many feet, divided by into a half a mile.
Yeah, so a half a mile is, say, 25, a little over
Right,
25.
2,500 feet, yeah, so.
2,500 feet, we're
Gives you an
talking.
idea about percentage, or like, so as we're trying to be succinct about how much
Yeah, so-
shoreline is actually being affected in the area here, so.
720.
So if you do 2,500 feet times say 5 feet, you're talking 12,500 feet. If we wanted to clear that whole path, we're talking 720 feet, which is a very small percentage of it. And again, if you went out there today, that 720 feet is already barren. So it's a very small percentage of, if you use that half mile.
And I do want to say that your point about raising the fact that some fishermen go in there and clear areas, that's exactly where our concern is that you've got younger fishermen, and now we're teaching them that it's okay to go in and clear an area. So we're perpetuating something which we're trying to avoid and trying to educate fishermen that you can't clear it. You cannot go in and clear an area just to fish. It's not healthy for the pond, or healthy for the water or the bank.
Well, that's why we want to do it ahead of time, so that the day of the Derby, we don't have people showing up and doing it.
Yeah.
And just,
Change the fact.
because it's 1/10 of 1%, so it's just for the record.
Just being, yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. John, Diana, when is John coming back? He's coming back this week.
I think he's back in the office on the 20th.
Okay, all right. So let's close it, and then within the order of conditions, make specific height limit as far as the trimming goes, and whatever else that John feels is important to get in there. But that would be my proposal is,
Okay, set a cap on the number of fishermen?
So can I just
Yeah.
ask, could you guys, if we end up not putting a cap on the number of participants, can you guys, I know it's logistically challenging, but can you try to track how many people, like how many cars,
Oh, yeah.
how many registered fishermen?
Yes, we
maybe?
can definitely do that.
Because if we know exact numbers, like you said, you couldn't find numbers for like the last 4 or 5
No, well,
years,
it's-
which
they-
doesn't mean
they
they don't
may have
exist,
them,
yeah.
We can do that.
But as of May of last year,
I mean, because maybe
they
it's
had
really only
225.
like
We can
200, and then
track
we can cap
easily-
it 200, or.
We can track the number of people ahead of time, and we would be able to track the number of people that don't show up that day, depending on weather, and we can track the number of extra people that show up that day if they actually register to be part of the Derby and have their fish weighed. I mean, we can't if they just show up to fish, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like if their kids are little or something, but, yes.
okay. Now, you said Mark and Renee were zooming in.
Yes. I think more just
Do-
if we had questions, or I don't know. I mean, they're on
Oh,
somehow.
okay. All right.
Maybe
I
they're
just wonder
on-
if they have any questions or comments.
I don't know, did you have a question?
I didn't hear what you said, Bob.
No, I was talking to, I'm checking on Mark and Renee.
No, we're both here, but we're just kind of watching.
Okay, can you hear? That was Mark.
Yeah.
Oh,
So yes, they're both still there.
okay. Any questions or comments, Mark?
No comments from me.
No. Okay. All right.
No comments
Neil,
from me
Did you
either.
have any questions on the
You
fishing
opening up
derby?
the floor? Are you opening up to?
Yep.
It's okay, that's okay. That's okay. I don't have any paperwork. Good evening. Neil Kaiser, 11 Ridge Road here in Foxborough. Gentlemen, ladies, good to see you again. I want to just give you a little bit of history, if I may. And Bob, you know it. A long time ago, the Neponset Reservoir Restoration Commission was formed, and we in turn came to the Conservation Commission asking for permission for a fishing derby. Eventually, it was given to us, and there were no restrictions. We had parking, we had hay rides. The only restriction on the hay ride was that it had to be a motorized vehicle, not horses. And we did have plans at the time for horses. So, whatever. But we ended up with a tractor, and we had hay rides. Now, this was in the late 80s, early 90s. And all of this stuff had gone through the Conservation Commission. Of course, not all of you, but Bob was there. So I just wanted to bring in, I've been listening to it on cable, and thank you, Foxborough Cable Access. You had mentioned in the early 2000, whatever, 13 and stuff like that, they didn't have any other records. And that's why I came here, just to let you know that it was given to the Restoration Commission, and we had no limits on the parking. We had access where we had the Fish and Game from Foxborough helping us out. They in turn helped with the kids and keeping things in order and everything else. And the people on the committee, our committee, were doing the same thing and registering everybody, keeping all of that done. I don't know where the records are now, of course, it's been a long time. At a certain time in the 1990s, I think the fishing derby kind of petered out a little bit. And I'm glad that they took it up a few years back. It was awesome. And I think you had the Fish and Game helping you at the same time. So I'm assuming you do now too? Good. See, I mean, all of this. So please, think about it and realize that in the past, the history has shown that the kids were not restricted in numbers. Everybody was welcomed. It didn't matter if they were from Foxborough or some other town. They came in and they did their thing. And at the end of the day, we cleaned everything up and left the property the way it was. We didn't have to do any trimming at the time because the town had already done trimming when they removed a lot of the cottages that were down there. That cleared out a whole bunch of areas, and it made it feasible to have a fishing derby and have an area where you could set up and register the kids and weigh their fish and give out the awards. And that's what we did. And I hope, as the board will do that now, and don't restrict the parking. They're not going to do any harm to anything out there. I'm sure, just like we did, we had people in the field parking the vehicles, making sure that they were in certain areas and not going elsewhere. And they have a whole lot more people than we do, or did. So please, I mean, if you have to contact the Neponset Reservoir Restoration Commission, I'm sure they might have some minutes that they can go back to and talk to you about it and anything like that. But it was a great day, and we had a rain date, and everything worked out well. So please, give them what they need. It's property that people should use, and I know there's only so many events that are supposedly allowed on the property of 100 acres, when we always call it the 100-acre woods, not 80 acres like you've been saying here today. It's 100-acre woods. So Winnie the Pooh is out there somewhere waiting, you know, and welcoming people. So please, give them what they want. That's all I can ask. Thank you.
Okay, just while you're there, Neil, just for clarification, the commission has never, ever been against the Derby, okay? We have a bylaw that prohibits clearing within 25 feet. We have a 25-foot no disturb.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay, so that is the issue. We've never been against the fishing derby. I've said from the beginning, it's a great idea, but we cannot just say, go and clear cut the brush or all the area around the water's edge. That is the issue. Okay.
No, I don't have issues with that. I'm not.
Okay,
I understand what you were saying, but what I'm also saying is that when we approached you, as the committee approached you, we gave you all the information, everything else, and yes, you gave us the day. You did that. There was no doubt about it. But what I just want to let you know that this has happened in the past.
Yes, I acknowledge that, but you just said in your statement, you did not have to cut any brush or anything else because the area was cleared
At
from the
that time.
people that had the camps there. So it's the issue is the clear cutting of the
Yep.
brush on
Nope,
the
nope,
water's
that's
edge.
totally understood.
Okay,
You
all
know,
right.
and like the lady here has said, by taking the brush and clearing a little area, anything that's sticking up for the kids is a hazard. And, I mean, there were hazards before, so just as
Okay,
you wanted,
yeah.
that's all she was talking about.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
like that, and just keep that in mind, too.
I'm thinking, all right, when you cut it down to 3 or 4 inches, it's more of a tripping hazard. If it's a foot high, they can still fish over it, and it would not be a tripping hazard, my point of view, all right? So,
Yeah, any others? I mean, is there other, everybody else is agree with that? That's fine, you know, I mean, there's no argument there.
yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Yep, I just came down to give you a little bit more extra history of it. But
Okay.
it would be nice if, contact the Neponset Reservoir Restoration Commission, and they should have some kind of records
Okay.
like that.
Thank you.
Okay, I wouldn't hurt you.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Neil. It's been a long time.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good, and you?
Good, good. Years.
Want to close the hearing?
Jim.
I move that we close the public hearing for the Recreation Commission submittal relative to the continuance of the fishing derby and providing a management plan for the area on the Neponset Reservoir. Do we have a number?
No, it's just the town, right?
It's just a local bylaw, didn't
Local
rise to the
bylaws,
state
not
level.
the state, so we have no DEP file number. Do I hear a second on the closure?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? None? We'll get you the order of conditions, and we'll get a definition on the trimming height so that we all agree to it.
Thank
Okay.
you, appreciate it. And thanks for the time, and looking back, I know it's been a long process to get here, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
I'm going to show you something.
7:15, we have a
7:15.
amended NOI.
Ready?
Well,
evening.
can we continue? We have the Ridge Road, 46, no, never mind. You're first. Other Ridge Road.
Yes.
There's so many. Thank you.
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetland Protection Act, and Foxborough's Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267, the Conservation Commission will open a public hearing on Monday, March 18th, 2024, at 7:15 PM in the Gala Meeting Room, Foxborough Town Hall, 40 South Street, or via Zoom, for an amendment to a previously approved notice of intent filed by James and Theresa Heinz to raise the existing structures and construct a new single-family residence at 46 Ridge Road, Assessors Map 45, Parcel 8. Portions of the proposed work lie within the 100 feet of a resource area. The application is available for public inspection in the Conservation Office at Town Hall. This notice can also be found on the Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association website.
Thank you, Tom.
Good evening, Craig Siganowski of Rim Engineering. I believe Jim and Theresa Heinz may be on Zoom tonight. So, about a month ago, we were approved for the development we proposed at 46 Ridge Road, which was expanding the existing house, connecting the garage to the house through a breezeway in addition to the garage, and an addition off the other side of the house. After getting approval, they were approached by people working across the street, and after thinking about it, the house was built in 1958 and hasn't really been occupied for the past 10 years or so. The foundation would be questionable, or at least over 60 years old. You're gonna have lead paint and asbestos to deal with and so forth. Plus, the interior layout was from the 60s, and they were looking at gutting the entire inside, and the numbers made it more attractive to take down the house and rebuild. So what we were able to do for this amendment is take down the house, but also move the project forward as much as we could Due to the slope off the front on top of the septic system, we could move it 10 feet further towards the road, bringing it somewhat out of the 100-foot buffer zone. But on the plan I just handed you that's colored up, there's the green shaded area off to the right. That encompasses where the existing driveway and garage were with the proposed addition. So we're taking that off. The plan now is that the house has an attached garage, so we lose about 20 feet of construction. So that green area now is partially degraded. At the end of the project, once they build the new driveway, that area will be allowed to return back to natural. So we're not clearing the trees that we had proposed in that area, which is, there were 20 to 25 inch oak trees, numbers 19 through 25, so those trees do not have to come down at this time. So we are still proposing the pervious paver driveway, pervious paver patio behind the house, which does abut the bank to the Neponset Reservoir. Trees 1 through 18, we are still calling for it to be removed, as many of those are close to the house and 1 to 3 inch growth. We are still proposing to bring the staircase down to the water line with the removable dock. The difference is that because we moved the house 10 feet away from the bank at the top of the slope, we no longer have that erosion problem. So we're putting a lawn behind our patio. So that will also contain the, fortify the land and prevent erosion. We are still proposing regrading the side slopes that are on both sides of the house on the pervious paver sides. And those will still have the plantings we had talked about, the low shrubs to, fortify the banks. So the front yard has grading that is outside the 100-foot buffer going towards the road, Ridge Road. The proposed parking area is smaller now, and we'll have a small retaining wall, which shows up on sheet 2 of the actual 3-page set. And that berm, that retaining wall will be about 6 inches above the paved driveway, which will create a berm and direct the water towards Ridge Road rather than towards the reservoirs, same as what we had in the past. So this kind of compacts the site by about 3,000 square feet. That's what the green area is on that sheet. And the red is the existing house, and the blue is the proposed new construction. So we're moving further away from the wetlands, and we're consolidating the overall impact and allowing the previously degraded areas to then return to nature once all the grading is done and the lawn areas have been established.
All the patios are in the same spot as they were before?
The patios are the same, still attached to the back of the house. They had if you remember, they had a sunroom off the left side as you're looking at this plan. That's been eliminated, and they have a proposed patio that's, because of the slope, they're up around 300, whereas the back patio is down around 293. So those are two separate patios, but they will both be pervious pavers.
Same with the walkway?
Yes. Well, the walkway, they're planning on paver walkway rather than, it won't be concrete, but it won't have that it's only 40 feet wide, so it'll be sand, with the typical paver.
Okay.
Quarter-inch, half-inch spaces to allow infiltration.
Did you provide on the other plans, underneath the paver, the patio and the walkway, the details of how it's going to be constructed?
Yeah, that detail is still on sheet 3.
Sheet 3, okay.
And in this case, because of the original plan, we were doing 2 additions. We were taking care of the roof water off just the additions. With the new house, we're taking care of all the roof water, putting it into larger Cultec chambers. So we're actually handling more of the runoff. But the detail of the pervious pavers is still on the sheet 3.
Yeah.
The detail showing the stairway and the dock is still on the plan. New details for the proposed larger Caltech recharge are on the plan.
So you have decreased the impervious area relative to the house, but it looks like the rear patio is going to be larger.
No, it'd be the same size, it's still 30 by 30, and that's kind of a maximum that they would build. The owner has said that they aren't sure that that's what they would truly build, but it wouldn't be any larger than that.
So are you pulling it back?
We're about 10 feet further from the bank of where it drops
So you're
off
pulling
towards,
the patio back too? Okay,
pulling the
okay.
patio, the entire house towards Ridge Road, about 10 feet. In the past, we had patio, then a 2-foot grass strip, then a 2-foot infiltration trench to slow down runoff towards the lake. But because we now have 10 feet of additional land, we're simply calling for lawn,
Yeah.
which will act as infiltration as well.
And will you use the same, like, seed mix for that? Had it been indicated in the first plan what seed mix to use for the grass strip? Like, will that be?
I
It's
don't
used for
think
the
we
lawn?
detailed that.
I feel like, did Jane used to recommend a specific
Yeah. I think,
seed
I don't
mix for
think that was in the lawn area. That would be in other.
Oh,
areas.
you mean on the slopes? We
Yeah.
were talking about putting the seed mix to, as well as native plants,
Correct.
the junipers or the low-spreading plants to hold the bank. Yeah, and the seed mix on that, that's still on the plan. That should be on sheet 2 in the notes section. And like before, we would use the existing gravel driveway that will eventually go back to natural, but we'll use that as our staging area and our stockpiling until it's no longer needed.
It's an improvement over the ones we previously approved. So personally, I have no problem with it. It's any comments, questions? Were they able to start demolishing the old house yet, or?
I drove by today and I think it's gone. I was surprised because when I spoke to the builder called and asked, should we demolish? We did have a permit because we had an approved plan, and he spoke to John Thomas. John Thomas met him on site. They had the siltation controllers in place, and John approved. And he said, well, you have the right to do construction. So I went by today and it's already down. So.
Okay. Good. Anybody have any other questions, comments? So I want to close the hearing.
Propose we close the hearing for DEP 157-634 with the changes.
second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I did make a signature page for this one, but I'm waiting for John to come back to
Write the
end it
order. Okay. All right. Someone will make a motion to sign the order of conditions that John is going to write for us.
I'll make a motion to sign the petition, the order of conditions, excuse me, for DEP 157-634.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Thank you.
John will be back later this week, so.
Thank you.
At 7:20, we have Ridge Road, map 30, DEP 157635. They've requested a continuance to April 1st. Somebody want to make a motion to continue that?
I'll make a motion to continue DEP, NOI for the DEP 157-635 till April 7th? Is that what you said?
First.
First, April 1st.
Second?
Fool's Day. Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? All right. We have a mitigation update for the YMCA.
Good evening, everyone. Mark Cooperman with Ecoterra Design and Consulting, working with Bill Buckley on coming up with a mitigation plan for the area on the north side of Robinson Brook where the activities had taken place. I know a couple of you have been out to the site for site visits with us and had a chance to see it, but for those who haven't, I'll just give you a quick synopsis of the report and proposal that we recently submitted.
Can I just interfere?
Of course.
This part of this site has does not have a certificate of compliance to previous work that was authorized when they originally came to build the basketball court and the other structure there when you're coming into the entrance. So that generated Jane in trying to find that information, and why wasn't a certificate issued? Though it seems like it was maybe approved, but it wasn't, the restoration area wasn't completed. And then when you go out there, when we recently went out there, whatever was planted, you really just don't hardly see. If there's 25% of the original plantings, we're lucky.
How much?
25.
Oh, yeah, that's optimistic. That's optimistic.
So
Yeah.
it was discussed, Jane discussed this. The question is, do we file a new notice of intent? How do we proceed with the certificate of compliance that's outstanding and the original order of conditions? I think in general, we agreed that a new notice of intent wouldn't be required, that this was, did she issue an order for restoration or something like that?
I think that's what we talked about, is if you wanted some type of paperwork, you would be an enforcement order to deal with
Yeah, we're open to that.
some of the things that were done, like putting in that gravel path, the work out there, and then as part of that, we came up with during the sidewalks, Mark came up with the restoration work that he's gonna show you right now. So an enforcement order, I think, would be if you wanted some type of paperwork.
Right.
Yeah.
So what happened when we walked out there, the YMCA has a large wooded recreational area for part of their camp programs and all type of things you would have out in the woods. And this is a way of trying to solve everything because all this is within the riverfront area.
Buffer riverfront.
Yeah.
That's right.
So this has led to the hiring of Ecoterra.
Ecoterra Design, yeah.
And Bill was working
Working
with
with Bill.
them to give some basic topo information. That's my summary.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, David.
Good summary.
Good summary, thank you. Yeah, it's a history, there's multiple histories.
Yes.
So yes, as David mentioned, I mean, there's this wooded recreational complex, for lack of better terms. You've seen the photos, different things that go on in there that are all based around the YMCA summer camp program that they've been using for years. The prior riverbank restoration is very difficult to distinguish. And in fact, let me speak a minute to my original sort of philosophy when Bill brought me in. And looking at this, we often go to some sort of invasive species management and/or restoration plan. It was clear that it was clear early on, this was not going to provide a net benefit to the site because we saw what happened when that was done. It's not the type of facility that's going to upkeep it. And the density of invasives, some of the top 3 to 5 noxious plants that we encounter are very well entrenched along there at this point. So that didn't seem to be a practical alternative. So we started to look at things a little differently, and I thought, well, you know, we've got the work that took place, but what other things on site can really lead to an improvement here? And it seemed that since we're dealing with a perennial stream in the brook there, we could look at stormwater. What kind of upgrades can we provide to water? And it's clear that there are a number of points at which water is pretty close to or running into the brook, towards the brook. So, does everybody have a copy of the report in front of them? You can see a series of photos. I'll just arrange into a couple. Let's start with some photos. It's always good to orient everyone.
I have it on my phone. I don't have a printed copy, but
Here we go.
I can follow it on here.
So one of the first areas that Bill actually pointed out to me was, right as you kind of enter the old cart path going into the wooded recreational area, there's an area of erosion right in here. And we've proposed, in this case, an infiltration trench, a stone infiltration trench, to stop that water that's coming off the roadway from scouring and doing that. One of the other areas of interest includes this cart path, manufactured cart path into the back fields, which we don't know exactly how it got there. Our understanding from the clients is that it may have been put in for safety access. Yeah, emergency access, so they can get an ambulance and fire vehicles back to the sports fields, which are back in this area here. In our site meetings with the members who were there and John Thomas, we've determined that we can bring this back to a porous paving, permeable paving situation, whether grass pave or something like that. So that's our proposal for that area here, which the brook would be right over here.
Now, for information, is that this area was part of that the original construction of the play area to the right, which they renovated into pickleball, splash pad, and the regular swimming pool is still there. And they put this in, and if I recall, Bill, that they weren't supposed to put basically they used stone dust and built this thing. And the only explanation I got from the maintenance guy was that it got too muddy. But this was like 12 some odd years ago, 10, 12 years ago, and it wasn't legal, that part. And what happens is the water comes off the parking area, goes down this very compact stone,
Yep.
goes to the left.
Rolls
into
right
the
here.
brook.
To the brook.
Yeah.
It rolls right in here into the brook. Yep, absolutely. So that's one of our other mitigation proposal.
Now, what did you say you're gonna put there?
A porous paving
Okay.
type solution. So in this case, a grass pave. Bill and I have talked about an engineered grass pave type situation.
Okay.
So it'll still be drivable by service or emergency vehicles. And that all those meet criteria for that.
Would it also prevent it from becoming really, really muddy, so
Yes.
they don't go back?
Oh, yes.
into-
Yeah, the profile is very specific.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like the access from Najee Estates, is that right, Bill? Okay.
Yep,
Kind of plastic with.
yep.
Yeah,
Looks
okay.
like a honeycomb.
Yeah.
There's gravel underneath it, and then there's loam in it, and it's grass.
And you got one over there, the subdivision off East Belcher Road,
Yeah, River Ridge has
River
one.
Ridge.
And the Patriots have one too, so.
Yeah, no, they're pretty useful, and they're extremely porous. Move down here. These are some of the features. You can see the condition of the woodland itself. Recreational complex, okay,
Now,
one.
Yeah, that's the main one I'm interested in right there. What are you gonna do?
We're gonna
there?
name it after you, Bob, the bridge, Bob's Bridge. So this is an area back within the wooded area where the cart path comes all around from where we showed you the proposed stone infiltration trench goes along the back of the complex, and it crosses through this area that historically is very wet here. And you can see here, obviously, you know, foot tracks, tire tracks from something. Temporary solution was to throw down some boards to kind of skip across here without getting your feet muddy. But the water flows, the water comes through from upgrading it over here in this direction at the school, and seems to historically want to move through this area here in general into a channel in the woodland over here. For this, all our initial discussions, and it seems to be the most sensible thing, would be to do some sort of raised boardwalk bridge type structure, you know, wood, something simple, to just allow that flow to naturally carry through, and also allow those soils not to be, you know, disturbed every time they are wet.
When you go out there, you'll find there's a swale coming from the back of the playing fields.
Right up here, yeah.
Down through this area, it disappears. Then on the other side of the boards, you can pick up that little swale. You know, it's filling in with leaves and stuff like that, but it still does its job.
Right, right.
So you proposing a raised structure there using
Yeah, raised timber,
auger type
helical
supports?
Yeah, I think, Bill, I think we mentioned.
what you want?
Helical piles, yeah, timbers on helical piles or something simple.
I was thinking more like,
Crib.
like we do in the Boy Scouts do. So you have a log on either end and a path, and we can make it more formal too.
Well, the thing is, you get vehicles, another thing, the vehicles enter from that area off the driveway that is eroding, and they have access to the whole back portion. Now, I don't know, for bringing equipment in, for access for if somebody gets hurt or anything like that, but it is drivable. So if you're going to have some type of structure there, it's not just for footprints.
Right.
Right.
It has to be something.
Maintenance, even if they're bringing, you know, UTVs and things back there for maintenance.
I think it's bigger than UTVs.
They're bigger, yeah.
Well, I'll ask Bob, the maintenance guy, what they do back there, and we'll just design for whatever it is.
So I was out there, for everybody to know, after two different times, after two different extensive rainstorms, over 30% of this site was underwater. And if you look at the far distance on that picture, you can see with the ground, the road is lifting up a little bit. Yeah, just scroll right about there. The water was all the way up to there.
You can see the water stain. See it right here?
Yep, it was up to there. And the water over this area here was shy of a foot, but didn't go into my boots, so. And then it was all the way over to, it didn't go to the archery place, but it went all the way over to the entrance. That's,
I think I have those
that whole area,
photos.
picnic area, tables, that was all underwater.
It seems in the several site visits, various times of the year, certainly the worst of it is sort of right between here and here. This was currently walkable at that time, probably not drivable, but walkable. But yeah, we can look more closely at it. There could be a. Let me get down here to, all right, one of John's strong suggestions when we were out there last, Bill was not there for that meeting, I know a couple of you were, was there is this catch basin that, I think it's just a distribution box, right? It's not even a full sump basin. Has no pretreatment EMPs in it. It basically has a daylighted discharge directly over here behind where the trailer is now to the brook. So certainly one of our proposed mitigation strategies is Bill and team will engineer up a proper catch basin sump and put a pretreatment BMP in there, which would be a tremendous improvement right now because there's parking. While there are a couple of catch basins, the parking is all rolling down to this corner and then directly daylighting out there. So again, back along the lines of that theme of while the disturbance took place in the woodland on the north side of the brook, really the improvements, I think, open to us here are stormwater related. So that's the catch basin.
And I didn't look further how much of that parking lot up on top of the hill is actually draining to that. So you might have to have a double graded type system. When the water came down on 2 inches of rain, it was just pouring down there.
Right.
It filled it right up and couldn't get out of the pipe fast enough. Also, there's no riprap or anything at the end of the pipe. You might, want to think of doing something there or put a wing thing in or.
Well, you're going to be working in the stream because it goes in and it drops like that. So I mean, you can, but do you want me to?
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, but it's an alteration in the resource area.
Even though it's just terrible.
It's your call. I mean, I would say it's an alteration of the bank and probably BVW. Is it BVW down there?
And maybe not on this side. This side might just be bank. The other side, yes.
I mean, we can look and see if there's erosion down there, but it's been doing there. I mean, it's probably been there for 60 years or longer, whenever the Foxborough company built that.
Right. Okay, and on to the final area of mitigation that we identified, that I spoke with John a bit about, was the entire, and I'll show you on the plan in just a minute, the entire side of the roadway that's adjacent to the brook that currently does not have very sufficient herbaceous vegetation acting as any kind of a filter strip. It's overly compacted. The trees have kind of overgrown the area. And so I suggested and we considered kind of reclaiming the road shoulder and using something akin to a shoulder, a vegetated herbaceous shoulder mix, like we'll often see for roadway specifications, to act as a good vegetated filter strip. In John's recent comment letter that he provided to us before the hearing tonight, he did point out, and I noticed that, in fact, we probably would want to even do some management on some of the woody material overhanging to let some light on that, so that filter strip can grow in. The root system of that will do its job, and that would provide a significant filter, really, for that entire roadway along there. And I'll show you on the plan. Let me show you, just to kind of wrap this up. That's everything we've seen. Okay, so we're gonna have to go over here. You'll see here. I have to reduce this a little bit. Give me a second. There we go. Okay. All right, so you can see here, Brooke, this one over here, the hatches come out a little different sometimes in the PDF. They were distinct, but this would be the grass pave, the porous pavement situation going into there, and everything is quantified in the report and the plan. And then the vegetated filter strip of just over 5,300 square feet. That runs along the entirety behind the trailer, all through here, and then this is a wider sort of level area before you hit the bank. And then as you go further down this way, we would narrow it out to a standard detail of, 8 feet or something like that of filter strip. And that would carry right along the southerly side of the brook and the wetlands. Right out to the end of, and that's you can see the roadway out there. And that would that would be a very substantial improvement to the water quality. So we've got several points of water quality improvement, you know, primarily the catch basin, the vegetated filter strip.
Yeah, there's erosion that's occurring on the side of that driveway that they've tried to,
It's very,
put chop rock in and, you know,
Several
stop
times,
it.
yeah, several places.
yeah, you can see a number of areas
Yeah.
along there.
And I think John pointed out that by getting rid of the woody vegetation above, which you might have to cut a few
Correct.
trees, it will allow them to mow it, you know, instead of just sitting there and getting overrun by invasives again.
Well, there's that and the required light, you know, for those species to thrive and really get that deep root system. So, you know, there'll be some prep, obviously some ground prep to get a desirable planting condition, seeding condition. But certainly, yeah, a lot of the trees, I was telling Bill outside earlier, some of the ice storms the last several years or so, some of the trees, the birch and stuff, are kind of leaning right over.
One thing that I noticed, if you put the porous pavement, grass pavement down, you're gonna have to pitch that from left to right. Because right now, everything is pitching towards the brook and the bridge. That's where everything is washing out, and before you get on the bridge, the gravel and sand's going into the brook. Part of that problem is from the pickle court and the paved area going off the corner of the paved area right there, and it's contributing towards a lot of water. I don't know if the porous grass pavement will stop that.
It's not going to stop it, but it's going to control it, so it's not eroding. I think that's what we're looking for, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it has to be pitched, otherwise, it's going to keep it rolling down into the brook.
Or pitch and try and keep it on the porous profile longer.
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah. Okay. Bill, anything else to add?
So we're just looking for tonight for you to kind of bless it, let us move to the next level of detail, so that then, because they want to get this in now before the camp starts.
Understand.
Right.
Yeah.
Can we allow them to clean out the swale?
I see no
A little bit.
reason. Yeah.
At least it'll be more efficient in trying to drain off that walking area.
The quote-unquote footbridge, yeah.
Yeah.
Clean that out to keep that positive.
The swale goes off both sides,
It
coming
does.
into
Right.
it and off, and
Right.
it's just raking leaves and stuff like that.
Right.
It looks like it comes in around there, so, yeah.
All right, so you can add that,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, that might help, kind of keep that area
the flow,
that area of
keep-
inundation.
yeah.
Yeah.
A little smaller,
Yeah.
you know.
It's not an alteration, it's just maintenance.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, this is a heck of an improvement over what was there, so you've done a lot of work on it. It's
Good,
commendable.
thank you. Yeah, like I said, we're trying to find something that we felt really is gonna work.
Yep.
You know, invasives removal and replanting out here hasn't worked, and it's not going to work, and I don't want to sign off on it.
And John agreed to that, too.
Yeah, John agreed with me on that. You know, I mean, there are sites, we do a lot of it, but I know which sites it's gonna work on, which it isn't. This one's not gonna work. So if the commission generally likes those strategies, you know, we'd like to move forward with getting the required detail that John appropriately asked for and getting this going so that the YMCA they do want to get these projects done.
Okay, good. Jim, any comments?
No, overall, I think it's a great improvement. I'm impressed.
Good, thank you. Any comments from the board or? Okay, so I think it's just a verbal, I don't think we have to, I think you have the
No.
consensus, so, can move forward.
Okay, thank you. And
very
then,
much.
I think the only other else, it was let us know how the commission wants to proceed paperwork-wise, if any. Obviously, if it's an EO, it's a friendly EO at this point.
Okay.
Let's talk to John about it.
Yeah, I talked to
Yeah,
you.
John is the expert on the technicalities of it.
Yes, he's a good reg guy,
Yeah,
so.
And he and I were out there with you, so
Yeah,
yeah.
virtually what we talked about here is what we talked about out there.
yeah. We're gonna push forth and get this ready for go.
Good.
By the
Okay.
way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Yep. Have anything else for the,
Yeah, I got some NRCC.
okay.
We've noticed a number of, quite a bit of styrofoam in the water on the lake.
Oh, yes.
And it appears that there's only one, someone did a quick survey around the lake, and there's only one dock that has a styrofoam base at the floating dock.
Oh,
And it's somewhere, we don't know which house it is, but it's somewhere between, it's either on Beach Street or Alice Bradley. So we need to get a letter to them at some point. We've got to find out who it is, and then get a letter to them asking them to repair and remove the styrofoam.
okay.
Which is, I mean, it's good that that's the only one. We were afraid we had a number of them, but.
Is there a way to actually, besides knocking on doors? Is
No,
there a
just
way to
knocking on
figure it out?
doors, yeah, I think so. Unless, I don't live on the pond, so, I mean, that reservoir, so it'd be hard to do it from that away anyways.
And I don't think there's any recent aerial photos of that area, on the Neponset Reservoir, but
And they're gonna place a new map at the dam site.
Okay.
And I've given them, Bob, you and Dave, to pick a site.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know of any issues as to where it might be in the way in the dam and whatnot, but
down at the dam.
at the dam,
At the
right,
dam.
right. And the last thing was that they did get the sand down on Edwards Road, on the parking lot. Still need to switch the rocks, but the sand was the more important thing.
Yeah, good.
Fishermen will just move the rock anyway.
Okay.
I have one other question for you.
Okay.
I spoke to Kay Amberg from the Rotary Club, and they have another sign to put up too. You reminded me of that by commenting on Chestnut Street.
Okay.
It was like already previously discussed.
Yeah. Okay.
But they'll be ready to put it in on May 18th. But they need to talk about exact placement of it.
Okay.
Jane wanted it moved a little further away. So the question was, does she talk to John? Does she talk to you?
Yeah, I will talk to, okay, have her call me.
Okay.
And I'll set up a meeting, I'll figure out, maybe I'll work it out.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll let her
Why
know.
don't we meet together with her and go out to
well, we can do that.
location? You know, that'd be easier.
I want to see what the previous thought was, so I'll try to find that out.
Yeah, I meant to go back and look at the minutes,
Yeah.
because I think I was here when
Yeah.
it was brought up, but I
Is this
didn't get
the
around to
chair
it.
one?
Hmm?
This is the chair bench
No, this is a sign
sign?
at the Chestnut Street
The
entry.
conservation sign? Just-
Yeah, it's the same as,
The wooden signs? Or is it no, too many questions, sorry.
yeah, well, too many questions on something
Yeah.
I don't know that much about.
This is the one by the railroad tracks?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that 13-acre parcel was dedicated to a former Conservation Commission member lady.
Who is that?
I got the name. I found the article in the files.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it was Esther. It was someone else that did a lot of work for him.
Okay, that was before my time. And that goes back a long time. So,
I think
but,
Bill was around.
Yeah.
Because I think they brought up a meeting to do with it.
yeah, okay,
I'll have Kay give you a call.
okay, good. All right, anything else? I hear a motion,
Make a motion to close the meeting?
Second?
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
None? Good night, all.